Chapter 268. Lu Jie's job at the front desk was to consult and guide customers. If a customer wanted to buy a special item, and the price was more than 1 million Federation coins, she could take the customer to shop and even get a commission. However, Lu Jie did not believe that this young man wanted to buy a special-grade spirit liquid. "How many bottles do you want to buy?" Lu Jie wanted to expose this brat as soon as possible, so she asked. 3 bottles, Li Daochong replied. "Good, follow me." "Oh, right, the counter on the 5th floor is the special counter of our Xingyuan building. Are you one of them?" Lu Jie continued to ask. "No." Li Daochong shook his head. "If you are not, you need to become one first. Generally speaking, if you want to go to the 5th floor, you need to spend 1 million first. Otherwise, I can't take you up. This is the company's rule." Lu Jie put on a see-what-you-can-do expression and said, "Oh, there's such a rule." Li Daochong curled his lips. He suddenly wanted to buy a special-grade spirit liquid because of the bracelet. When Li Daochong was about to touch the bracelet, the hot-blooded level-up device suddenly issued a notification that it had found a nether rune. The runes on the bracelet were actually mixed with nether runes, which were the opposite of spirit runes. To put it bluntly, it was a rune that could drive death chi. The reason why the death chi in the bracelet was not emitted was because of the nether rune seal. The simplest way to remove the nether rune was to use spirit liquid to wash it. Li Daochong could not remove the nether rune by himself, so using spirit liquid to wash it was the simplest and most effective way. If he did not remove the nether rune, Li Daochong would not be able to remove the seal on the bracelet. Li Daochong felt that there was some kind of nether object hidden in the bracelet, but he did not know if it was a nether ghost or something else. In short, no matter what it was, as long as it was a Hades species, Li Daochong could absorb it to increase his cultivation. When he reached the peak of Qi gathering stage, he only needed to spend a few million to increase his cultivation, which was very cost-effective for any cultivator. However, when Li Daochong heard Lu Jie say that he had to spend 1 million yuan first, he felt that it was a bit of an overbearing clause, so he murmured. Of course, 1 million yuan was not much for the current Li Daochong. However, regardless of whether he had money or not, Li Daochong didn't want to spend money in vain. Even if it was a small amount of money, it had to be worth it. However, Li Daochong's hesitation became a dilemma in Lu Jie's eyes. Brat, what's wrong? No money?" Lu Jie was sure that this young man, who called himself Mr. Li, could not afford it. "You've exposed yourself, brat. If you want to pick up girls, you need to have the ability. Do you think you can pick up girls with just a few tricks?" Lu Jie looked at Li Daochong mockingly. She wanted to see how he would continue acting. "Do you sell talisman paper here?" Li Daochong thought for a moment and asked. "Talisman paper?" Lu Jie didn't react in time. "Yes, I want to buy 1 million talisman papers." Li Daochong nodded. "What? 1 million talisman papers? Mr. Li, talisman papers are everywhere. 1 talisman paper costs only a few cents in Federation dollars. How many talisman papers can you buy with 1 million? Our company doesn't produce these low-end products." Lu Jie looked at Li Daochong as if she was looking at an idiot. "I want to buy golden sandalwood talisman papers. The kind that costs 50,000 each," Li Daochong said immediately. Lu Jie was about to say something when she heard about golden sandalwood talisman papers. She was stunned again. This guy really wanted to shock her to death. Did he really want to attract girls' attention that much? Golden sandalwood talisman papers have already appeared. Are you going to tell me that you're a spirit sequencer and want to make spirit talismans? Lu Jie was furious. This guy kept beating around the bush and refused to admit that he wanted to pick up girls. "All right, I'll bring you to buy them," Lu Jie said angrily. She then said something to another receptionist and said to Li Daochong, "Follow me." Lu Jie was angry and walked very quickly. Li Daochong followed her into the floating spirit staircase. When they reached the 3rd floor, Lu Jie went straight to the high-end talisman paper counter. When she arrived, she turned around and said to Li Daochong, "These are all high-end talisman papers. Buy them." Lu Jie looked at Li Daochong angrily. "Let's see how you're going to pretend." Li Daochong was used to this girl's angry look and didn't mind. He glanced at the various talisman papers on the counter and said, "Then I'll buy 20 golden sandalwood talisman papers. It's exactly 1 million. The receptionist at the counter was also a girl. When she heard that he wanted to buy 20 golden sandalwood talisman papers, her eyes lit up. She quickly took out 20 talisman papers from under the counter and wrapped them in an exquisite wooden box. "Pay up." Lu Jie had been looking at Li Daochong the whole time, waiting to see how he was going to deal with this situation. 1 million wasn't a small amount for the average person. It was enough for an ordinary family to instantly step into a well-off life. Li Daochong first raised his wristwatch and then put it down. He touched the storage bag at his waist. This move, in Lu Jie's eyes, was a final struggle. "You don't have money," Lu Jie's eyes seemed to say. Patter. Dozens of spirit stones fell on the counter. "Can I pay with spirit stones?" Li Daochong asked indifferently. Yes, of course. Our company prefers customers to pay with spirit stones." The receptionist saw the spirit stones and smiled from ear to ear. This was the biggest business she handled today. She could get a lot of commission. Spirit stones could be used as commission. How was this possible? Lu Jie's eyes were wide open. She stared blankly at the spirit stones on the counter. Her nose was about to run. Not only could this kid afford it, he was paying with spirit stones. F***ck Lu Jie felt like she was being played. She looked at Li Daochong with a hint of conspiracy in her eyes. F***ck, this kid was an expert at picking up girls. Lu Jie couldn't help but admit that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Even if she knew what was going on, she was still stunned. Did he think he was a Pan Jun? Putty was wringing his hands in joy. Who knew how many girls had been tricked by this kid? She hated this kind of pretentious peddler the most. After Lu Jie recovered, she started to get angry again. The receptionist naturally didn't know what Lu Jie was thinking. She only knew that she didn't work in vain today. She could reward herself next month. She was very enthusiastic about Li Daochong and secretly gave him flirtatious look. This kind of rich and low-key boy wasn't often seen. He was also so straightforward. He was willing to pay with spirit stones. Ordinary rich young masters couldn't afford that. "Sir, you have spent 1 million. You are automatically a member of our company. You can enter the counter to choose more items. Many of them are our company's special products. Have a good shopping." The receptionist looked at Li Daochong with an extremely good attitude and bowed slightly. Lu Jie's veins were popping out. Had this girl never seen spirit stones before? Wasn't it just 1 million spirit stones? What was so great about it? Li Daochong put away the wooden box and said, "Can I go to the 5th floor now?" "Yes," Lu Jie replied stiffly. "Follow me." Soon, they reached the 5th floor. Lu Jie brought Li Daochong to the special grade spirit liquid counter and said, "Do you want to buy recovery spirit liquid, healing spirit liquid, or cultivation spirit liquid? Just pick any 3 bottles for me," Li Daochong said. As long as it was spirit liquid, it didn't matter what kind of spirit liquid it was. "Are you sure you want to pick any?" Lu Jie was a little annoyed. In her opinion, this Mr. Li was always trying to attract her attention. "You are rich, right? Fine, if you really let me pick any, I will pick the most expensive one for you. Let's see how you can continue pretending." "Okay." Li Daochong didn't think too much. He just wanted to buy the spirit liquid as soon as possible so that he could clean the bracelet. "Okay, Xiaowen, bring 3 bottles of jade spirit liquid to this gentleman." "He wants to buy it," Lu Jie turned and said to the receptionist in the spirit liquid counter. Xiaowen was stunned. Jade spirit liquid? 3 million per bottle? She couldn't believe her ears. She had only met such a big customer once or twice in her many years as a receptionist. Was the god of fortune here today? After Xiaowen reacted, she looked at Li Daochong with a bit more charm in her eyes. She couldn't help but smile. Lu Jie's face was pale. "Hurry up and get the goods," Xiaowen hurriedly responded. Then, she carefully took out 3 small metal bottles containing the jade fine spiritual liquid from the warm storage room behind her. Among the special grade spirit liquids, jade spirit liquid was the best healing spirit liquid. As long as the external injuries didn't kill, they could be healed in a day. "Sir, 9 million Federation coins," Xiaowen said with a flirtatious look when she finished packing and handed it to Li Daochong. Li Daochong was slightly stunned. He glanced at Lu Jie and frowned slightly. However, the jade spirit liquid was indeed this price. It was just that they had agreed on 1 million spirit liquid, but this girl actually chose the most expensive one. Well, the higher and purer the spirit liquid, the more thorough the cleansing would be. Pitter-patter. A pile of spirit stones fell on the counter. Xiaowen looked at the pile of spirit stones with her mouth wide open. She looked up at Li Daochong and shouted in her heart. Chapter 269. There were hundreds of spirit stones piled up on the counter. The counter attendant, Xiaowen, had never seen so many spirit stones before. A few years ago, she met a big customer who paid in Federation dollars, the kind that was scanned by a wristwatch. It was just a string of numbers. It was nothing compared to the dazzling spirit stones in front of her. Xiaowen was dumbfounded. She never thought she would see so many spirit stones in her life. Lu Jie's pretty eyes were dazed. She was already dumbfounded when Mr. Li took out dozens of spirit stones. But soon, she thought that this guy was just putting up a front. Lu Jie had seen many people who put up a front to get girls. She was sure that this guy would not be able to take it when they reached the 5th floor. Then, Mr. Li gritted his teeth and let her choose whatever she wanted. "Since you're so pretentious, I'll be sorry if I don't pick for you." Lu Jie chose the most expensive jade nectar spiritual liquid. 3 bottles of it cost 9 million. Even a family member like Yang Xingyu might not be able to buy it. However, even if Lu Jie's period did not come, she would never have thought that this guy would pour out so many spirit stones with just a frown. "Brother, is your family in the spirit stone business?" Lu Jie was dumbfounded as she looked at the spirit stones piled up on the counter. She exclaimed in her heart. Not only were the 2 girls shocked, but many customers who were choosing items at the counter also looked at them with surprise. Spirit stones were the Federation's absolute hard currency. But very few people would take them out to trade. That was because the price of spirit stones was not fixed. 1 spirit stone was equivalent to 1,000 Federation dollars in exchange for Federation dollars. But spirit stones could be sold. If they were really sold, 2,000 Federation dollars might not be enough to buy them. So, it was very disadvantageous to trade with spirit stones of equal value. There was actually someone who was so rich as to take out hundreds of spirit stones. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. In fact, Li Daochong had no choice. He did not want to trade with spirit stones. However, other than spirit stones, he only had a few Federation coins left. He had no choice but to use spirit stones to make the transaction. He had obtained these spirit stones before he followed Wenwan to Floating Snow Town. He had obtained a total of 50,000 spirit stones. He had spent 10,000 spirit stones to buy Wenwan's level 10 spirit talisman. Li Daochong still had 40,000 spirit stones on him, so a few hundred spirit stones were nothing to him. After being stunned for a few seconds, Xiaowen finally regained her senses and hurriedly used the spirit stone testing machine to check. All of them were true spirit stones, and their quality was much higher than ordinary spirit stone slags. They were elementary spirit stones. Their value was 10 times higher than ordinary spirit stones, and a single one was worth tens of thousands of Federation coins, or even more. The spirit stones piled up on the counter were worth exactly 9 million Federation coins, but Xiaowen knew very well that if they were to be sold, they would be worth at least 15 million. However, according to the company's regulations, spirit stones could only be traded according to the market price. Xiaowen then put the spirit stones into the safe. "Dear member, this is your item." Xiaowen respectfully handed over the packaging box and stared at Li Daochong with sparkling eyes. Li Daochong took the box and turned to Lu Jie. "Is there a lounge in the building?" Lu Jie did not understand and replied, "Of course there is. Why? Is Mr. Li tired and want to rest?" Li Daochong did not explain and only replied calmly, "Something like that. Lead the way." Lu Jie's mental defenses were crumbling bit by bit. She did not believe that a guy who could take out so many spirit stones did not have a family background, especially since this guy looked so young. He was definitely not more than 20 years old. A young man of planet Qiang's age, who could take out so many spirit stones, was not someone a girl of Lu Jie's level could meet. This time, she had really misjudged him. Lu Jie was depressed. If she had known that this guy was so rich, she would not have had such an attitude before. Lu Jie was not a girl who was greedy for money, but she also knew the importance of making high-quality friends. Just like how Yang Xingyu pursued her, she still did not accept it, but there was nothing wrong with being friends. However, she had already shown such an attitude. If she were to do a 180-degree turn now, she would be too spineless. So what if you're rich? So what if you're rich? I won't give a damn. Let's see what you can do. If you want to show off, go ahead. You're just rich. Lu Jie brought Li Daochong to the lounge on the 6th floor and was about to leave. "Miss Lu, please wait." Li Daochong saw Lu Jie turning to leave and immediately stopped her. "What? Is something the matter?" Lu Jie stopped and turned to look at Li Daochong. However, her heart skipped a beat and she knew that something was wrong. Could it be that this guy saw that she was unmoved and deliberately asked her to bring him to the lounge while no one was doing anything to her? Lu Jie's pretty face revealed a timid expression. I haven't seen your bracelet yet," Li Daochong said patiently. "Didn't I show it to Mr. Li at the front desk?" Lu Jie subconsciously took a step back. "Can you show it to me again?" Li Daochong said very politely. Actually, Li Daochong was a little angry at this moment. This girl's behavior made him feel very uncomfortable. Li Daochong wondered if there was something wrong with this woman's head. It wasn't the first time he thought about it. Although he was angry, Li Daochong still asked for her opinion very calmly and politely. After all, the bracelet belonged to her. However, Li Daochong's patience had reached a critical point. If this girl continued to dawdle, wouldn't she be talking nonsense? Clothes? Elliptical? Snuggling? You want to see the bracelet? You want to touch my hand, right? Lu Jie looked at Li Daochong warily and continued to ask, "Are you really just looking?" Li Daochong was confused. "What else? Are you going to eat it?" There was a double meaning in his words. This guy's words had a hidden meaning. Lu Jie's delicate body trembled. "Does he want to eat me?" No, I'm still a virgin. How can I be eaten by an expert who pretends to be a tiger to eat a pig when it comes to picking up girls? Lu Jie was quick-witted. She quickly took off the bracelet and threw it to Li Daochong. "I don't like to be close to people. You can take a look at it yourself." Li Daochong caught the bracelet and couldn't be happier. He immediately looked at the bracelet attentively. "Pretend. Keep pretending." Lu Jie looked at Li Daochong warily. She was afraid that this guy would suddenly rush over and hug her, and then she would lose her virginity. A few minutes passed. Li Daochong didn't have any intention of getting close to Lu Jie. He played with the bracelet with a serious face, as if he wanted to see through the bracelet. He really knows how to pretend. Lu Jie's expression said, "I won't fall for it. Do you want me to be curious and get close to you? Dream on." Li Daochong focused on looking at every pattern on the bracelet. There were spirit patterns and dark patterns. He was completely immersed in it. As for Lu Jie, he had already forgotten about her. These patterns were the most exquisite ones Li Daochong had seen so far. They gave him some inspiration when he created spirit sequence patterns. However, those dark patterns were useless. They even messed up the exquisite spirit patterns and formed another seal pattern. Half an hour passed. Li Daochong was still holding the bracelet and looking at it attentively. He was completely immersed. Lu Jie couldn't stand it anymore. How can this brat be so good at pretending? Does he need so much time to look at a bracelet? Lu Jie couldn't stand it anymore. She simply sat on the sofa at the side and acted as if she was saying, "Fine, let's wait and see how long you can pretend." After a while, Li Daochong finally put down the bracelet and took out 3 bottles of top-grade spirit liquid. He then opened the bottles and poured the expensive jade spirit liquid on the bracelet. Lu Jie suspected that she was hallucinating. This brat actually poured the expensive jade spirit liquid on the bracelet like it's water. After the baptism of the spirit liquid, the sealing dark patterns on the bracelet slowly melted. Li Daochong's mental force condensed on the bracelet and wrapped it tightly. This was to prevent the ghost hidden in the bracelet from escaping. When the seal completely disappeared, Li Daochong's blood spirit upgrader let out a cry. Discovered Wu Gui's clone. Chapter 270. Li Daochong had goosebumps all over his body when he heard the words, "Which ghost's clone?" Which ghost was a true high-level dark ghost. Its corresponding cultivator was a Yuanian cultivator, so one could imagine how terrifying its strength was. Although the clone's strength would be much weaker than the main body, it should still have the strength of a soul catcher. Li Daochong was only at the peak of the qi condensation realm, so how could he be a match for a soul catcher? Li Tianyang was injured because he was ambushed by a soul catcher. After all, Li Tianyang was at the middle stage of the Jin Dan realm. Li Daochong's expression changed, but after a few seconds, there was still no movement. Li Daochong didn't dare to use his telekinesis too deep. He was worried that the dead souls of the witch ghost's clone would exceed what he could absorb and cause a backlash. However, there was still no movement. Li Daochong found it strange, so he tried to use his telekinesis bit by bit. There was a Na-Yu space hidden in the bracelet, and a black cloud was floating inside. This black cloud looked very quiet. Li Daochong took a risk and used his telekinesis to touch the black cloud. Discovered dark nether cloud cocoon. A notification sounded. Li Daochong's expression changed slightly. It was actually a dark nether cloud cocoon. This thing, as the name suggested, was actually a cocoon formed by the dark nether silk that the dark ghost spat out when it evolved. It was the same as a cocoon turning into a butterfly. After confirming that it was a dark nether cloud cocoon, Li Daochong's heart slowly calmed down. The witch ghost's clone that evolved while sleeping was not so terrifying. Li Daochong found that thousands of extremely fine threads extended around the dark nether cloud cocoon. They were so fine that even he couldn't see them. Soul catcher threads? Li Daochong quickly identified the attributes of these threads. They were the soul catcher threads unique to the withered ghost. This meant that the withered ghost was the witch ghost's clone, and it was currently in the evolution stage. After the withered ghost evolved, it would evolve from a malicious ghost to a soul catcher. Its strength would leap to another level. Li Daochong finally understood why Lu Xingyuan, who was only in the 5th layer of qi refining, was able to survive for so long after being bound by the soul-sucking threads. It turned out that this withered life ghost had fallen into a deep slumber. Otherwise, Lu Xingyuan would have died long ago. But why would such a powerful dark ghost choose this bracelet? Li Daochong had a strange expression on his face. Now was not the time to think. He had to find a way to kill the withered ghost as soon as possible. Li Daochong was still thinking about how to find the withered life ghost, but he didn't expect to find it so easily. He had searched high and low for it, only to find it by chance. Of course, all of this was thanks to Li Daochong not letting go of any details. The death aura on Lu Jie's body was actually very weak and undetectable. Li Daochong had only sensed it after entering the building with his keen perception and the hot-blooded upgrader. It was reasonable to say that Li Daochong could completely ignore such a weak death aura. There were too many places with weak death aura in the streets and alleys. Humans would also produce death aura when they grew old and died. However, Li Daochong's action of not letting go of any details was now reaping the rewards. He had discovered an evolving withered life ghost. Li Daochong was in a bit of a dilemma. With his current strength, it would be very difficult to break open the black nether cloud cocoon. If he didn't break open the black nether cloud cocoon, Li Daochong wouldn't be able to absorb the withered life ghost inside. But there was a risk in doing so. Breaking open the black nether cloud cocoon could startle the withered life ghost, causing it to awaken from its slumber. A dark ghost that was awakened in the middle of its evolution would be like a cultivator that was interrupted at a critical moment in their cultivation. Although the dark ghost wouldn't be able to evolve because of this, and might not even be able to evolve in the future, a dark ghost that went berserk would definitely be stronger than before. Li Daochong wasn't worried that he couldn't beat it, but that the withered life ghost that went berserk might instantly suck everyone connected to the soul-absorbing threads dry. More than 1,000 people would instantly die, including Lu Xingyuan. So this method wouldn't work. The best method was to instantly kill the withered life ghost. But with Li Daochong's current strength, it was impossible for him to instantly kill the withered life ghost. If his strongest attack couldn't kill it, it meant that he would have to face a withered life ghost that went berserk. But Li Daochong's eyes quickly flashed. He couldn't instantly kill the withered life ghost, but he still had a level 10 talisman on him. Not to mention a malicious ghost, even a soul catcher ghost would have to weigh its strength before facing a level 10 talisman head-on. He had a way, but he definitely couldn't do it in this lounge. A level 10 talisman was no joke. If he used it here, the entire Xingyuan building would collapse. Miss Lu, can you lend me your bracelet for a day? Li Daochong continued. Lu Jie, who was sitting on the sofa, was starting to believe that the young man in front of her was really looking at the bracelet. But when she heard this, she immediately overturned her thoughts. Wasn't the trick of borrowing things so that they could continue to meet? This bracelet was passed down from Lu Jie's ancestors. Her grandfather said that this bracelet was priceless and had protective properties. Before he died, he especially told Lu Jie not to give it to anyone else. Mr. Li, I'm afraid I can't. You've been looking at it for so long. Haven't you had enough? It's just a bracelet from a few years ago. Lu Jie refused. I can give you 1,000 spiritual stones as a deposit and 10 spiritual stones as a reward. What do you think? Li Daochong immediately said. Here comes the sugar-coated bullet. Lu Jie immediately saw through this young man's trick. But even so, she was a bit tempted. Spiritual stones, and they were elementary spiritual stones. Spiritual stones were the best supplementary materials for spiritual qi cultivation. Mr. Li, I've wasted an hour with you here. I have to go back to work. My grandfather told me not to lend this bracelet to anyone. You're rich and you don't have to go to work. I'm just a lowly employee. Please let me go. Lu Jie begged. Miss Lu, your bracelet came from an ancient tomb. It has a very strong death aura on it. I'm trying to help you. Li Daochong spoke the truth. Of course, he said that the death aura came from an ancient tomb. You're still pretending. Will you die if you don't pretend? Death aura from an ancient tomb? Why don't you say that the bracelet came from Hades? Brother, can't you be more direct? Why do you have to pretend? How about this? If you want to chase me, so be it. Just tell me now. I'll be at a disadvantage and follow you. Just stop pretending. When Lu Jie heard Li Daochong's words, she wanted to cry but had no tears. After half a day, she was both mentally and physically exhausted. She had met such a master of tricks and words. I really don't need it. Lu Jie refused immediately. If Li Daochong hadn't found the death aura, he might have let it go. However, now that he had found it and the seal on the surface had been removed, the space inside the bracelet had lost its entrance. Any abnormality could awaken the death aura inside the black cocoon. No matter what, Li Daochong would never return the bracelet to Lu Jie before he killed the death aura inside the bracelet. Li Daochong saw that Lu Jie refused to lend the bracelet to him, so he wanted to use force. However, that would cause a big commotion. Lu Jie might call the police and things would become complicated. Li Daochong thought about it and gave up the idea of using force. He couldn't persuade Lu Jie, but maybe Lu Xingyuan could. After all, he was the head of the Lu family. Can you return the bracelet to me now? Lu Jie saw that Li Daochong didn't want to return the bracelet, so she quickly said. Li Daochong's hand shook and the bracelet fell into Lu Jie's hand. The latter's face relaxed and she immediately put the bracelet on. I really have an appointment with Lu Xingyuan. Can you help me inform him now? Li Daochong looked at Lu Jie with clear eyes and asked. Still pretending. Lu Jie couldn't help but clench her teeth. This kid won't give up until all hope is gone. He won't cry until he sees the coffin. Don't think that I'll be fooled just because you're filthy rich. There are plenty of rich people in Qiyang City. Okay, I'll help you ask. Follow me. Lu Jie replied angrily. Li Daochong didn't say anything and followed Lu Jie out of the lounge. As soon as they left the lounge, they bumped into Yang Xingyu who came out from another lounge. Yang Xingyu was followed by a tall middle-aged man in a suit. It was Feng Jindai, the deputy manager of a project in Lu Group. Lu Jie saw Feng Jindai and immediately stopped and greeted. Manager Feng? Yes. Feng Jindai nodded in response. Xiao Jie, is this kid still pestering you? Yang Xingyu didn't expect this kid to still be following Lu Jie after such a long time. Young Master Yang, is he your friend? Feng Jindai squinted his eyes. It was his instinct to curry favor with those in power. Before he spoke, he had to find out the background of the other party. After all, this was a lounge and not just anyone could enter. No, I don't know him. I saw this guy harassing Xiao Jie at the front desk when I came here in the afternoon. Is Lu Group's management so bad that just anyone can enter? Yang Xingyu was jealous and dissatisfied. Feng Jindai looked at Li Daochong from head to toe. Seeing his shabby clothes, there was a hint of disdain in his eyes. After listening to Yang Xingyu's words, he was sure that this young man didn't have any background and had conflicts with Yang Xingyu. Feng Jindai had just signed a cooperation contract with Yang Xingyu worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He could get a lot of commission, but it depended on Yang Xingyu's mood. Feng Jindai wanted to curry favor with Yang Xingyu. He looked at Li Daochong coldly and said, Do you have identification? Li Daochong frowned. He didn't even look at Feng Jindai. He only said to Lu Jie, who had stopped in her tracks, Miss Lu, why did you stop? Lu Jie said, Mr. Li, I'm just a receptionist. This Mr. Feng is my superior. Shouldn't I stop and greet my superior? Li Daochong said calmly, Are you done greeting him? If you're done, then leave. Lu Jie pouted and continued walking towards the floating staircase without saying a word. Yang Xingyu heard the conversation between the two and found it strange. He pulled Xiao Jie's arm and asked, Xiao Jie, where are we going? Lu Jie said with a bitter face. He insisted that he had an appointment with Master Lu and insisted that I go and inform him. Yang Xingyu looked at Li Daochong with disdain and said, Kid, why do you have to ask for a rebuff? Feng Jindai revealed a playful smile. He had seen too many of these people clamoring to see Master Lu over the years in Xingyuan building. Almost every day, there would be a few hotheads who were crazy about getting rich and wanted to see Master Lu. Their purpose was to get Master Lu's attention, or they felt that they were amazing and could be appreciated. Kid, there are a few people like you coming every day. But today, I advise you to give up on the idea of seeing Master Lu. Master Lu is in a bad mood recently. There was a guy who wanted to see Master Lu this morning. No matter how hard I tried to persuade him, he wouldn't leave. In the end, Master Lu met him, but his leg was broken and he was thrown into the human-beast cage battle arena. Now, he has become a savage beast's meal, Feng Jindai said with a smile. Oh, is that so? Mr. Feng, do you believe that if I don't see Master Lu today, your leg will be broken? Li Daochong said calmly as he looked at Feng Jindai calmly. Lu Jie covered her face when she heard what Feng Yu said. She could not take it anymore. Manager Feng was one of the top management in the Lu group. His status was not ordinary, and the Feng family's background was not ordinary. You are digging your own grave by acting cool in front of him. Ha ha ha, kid, this is the funniest joke I've heard this year. Alright, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. I'll bring you to see Master Lu, Feng Jindai laughed disapprovingly. Chapter 271. Speak of the Devil. Life was just that amazing. Feng Jindai immediately stopped smiling and shrunk his head like a mouse seeing a cat. However, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes as he looked at Li Daochong. Young man, there's a saying that's right. Don't act cool or you'll be struck by lightning. I didn't expect it to come true so soon. Lu Jie didn't expect that she would be lucky enough to meet Lu Xingyuan. She immediately puffed up her chest and stood up straight, wanting to leave a good impression in front of the Lu family head. At the same time, Lu Jie also looked at Li Daochong. Young man, let's see how you're going to continue acting now. Didn't you want to meet Master Lu? Now that you're here, let's see how you're going to clean up this mess. Just wait for Master Lu to deal with you slowly. Too many tricks and you'll be trapped. Yang Xingyu was also slightly stunned. He had never met Lu Xingyuan before. The Lu family was the fifth largest family in Planet Scarlet Sunday. Lu Xingyuan was a big shot that could shake Planet Scarlet Sun with a stomp of his foot. Compared to the Lu family, the Yang family was no better than a beggar. Feng Jindai quickly adjusted his emotions and walked past Li Daochong. He greeted Lu Xingyuan respectfully and said, Master Lu, this young man said that he wanted to meet you. He even said that he made an appointment with you first. Because you told me that you wouldn't be seeing any guests, I advised him to leave. Who knew that this young man would spout nonsense and say that if I didn't bring him to meet you, you would break my legs. Feng Jindai told Lu Xingyuan everything that had happened. Lu Xingyuan's eyes twitched after hearing it. When he walked over, he felt that the back of this young man who was only 4 to 5 meters away from him was somewhat familiar. Yang Xingyu interjected, Master Lu, this young man came to the front desk early in the morning to harass the receptionist. I think he's most likely harboring ill intentions towards the receptionist. Why don't we call the security to throw him out? At this moment, Li Daochong slowly turned around. Lu Xingyuan's dispirited expression instantly changed. It was as if he had seen the savior of the world. The serious and dignified expression that he maintained in the company instantly disappeared and was replaced by a humble smile. Master Lu, do you want me to call the security personnel over? Feng Jindai was eager to make a contribution and immediately said, but halfway through, Lu Xingyuan pushed him away. Lu Xingyuan ran to Li Daochong and grabbed his hand, as if he was grabbing onto a life-saving straw. Mr. Li, is that really you? Li Daochong nodded calmly. Yes, it's me. Lu Xingyuan was on the verge of tears. He thought that this almighty being was just being perfunctory. How could a cultivator care about the life and death of a lowly mortal like him? Lu Xingyuan had been restless for the past few days, not because his condition had worsened, but because he was worried that Mr. Li would not come. Feng Jindai was dumbfounded. Yang Xingyu's face was filled with disbelief. Lu Jie opened her mouth wide and felt like she was dreaming. Thud. Lu Xingyuan kneeled in front of Li Daochong as if there was no one around. The three people who were already in shock were completely dumbfounded when they saw this scene. The head of the Lu family was actually bowing to a young boy in front of everyone. What the hell was going on? Mr. Li, please save me. I will never forget your great kindness, Lu Xingyuan pleaded. Get up first. Since I'm here, I'll definitely save you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come. Li Daochong frowned, a little dissatisfied with Lu Xingyuan's overreaction. Hearing this, Lu Xingyuan's hanging heart was half relieved. Seeing that Mr. Li was displeased, he knew that his behavior was a little overboard, so he quickly stood up. Then, Lu Xingyuan remembered something. He turned to look at Feng Jindai, who was smiling humbly at Li Daochong. When he turned to Feng Jindai, the smile on his face quickly disappeared, and the dignified expression that the head of the Lu family should have returned. Lu Xingyuan became the head of the Lu family that everyone in the family respected again. Now there was even more anger on his face. What Feng Jindai just said was the main reason why Lu Xingyuan quickly knelt in front of Li Daochong. Mocking Mr. Li? Do you want me to King Dai? If Mr. Li is unhappy about this and doesn't want to treat me, are you going to pay me with your life? The more Lu Xingyuan thought about it, the angrier he got. He said in a low voice, Feng Jindai, what did you just say? I didn't hear you clearly. Say it again. Feng Jindai's face twitched. He wanted to cry, but he couldn't. He felt like he was in a pot of boiling oil. What the CK was going on? This kid who looked less than 20 years old not only knew Master Lu, but his status seemed to be far beyond what he imagined. Master Lu knelt in front of someone? How was that possible? If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that the knife was pressed against Feng Jindai's neck. However, such an unbelievable thing happened right in front of his eyes. Even if Feng Jindai's brain was full of *T, he could tell that this young man was Master Lu's guest, and that Master Lu had a favor to ask of him. Repeat what he just said? Wasn't that asking for death? Do you believe that if I don't see Lu Xingyuan today, your legs will be broken? The young man's indifferent voice rang in Feng Jindai's ears. Why aren't you saying anything? Say it, Lu Xingyuan said coldly. Feng Jindai didn't dare to say anything. He looked helplessly at Yang Xingyu, then knelt in front of Lu Xingyuan. Master Lu, I deserve to die. I was blind. I'm a good-for-nothing. Please break my legs. Lu Xingyuan snorted coldly. What's the use of telling me? When Feng Jindai heard that, he quickly knelt in front of Li Daochong. He kowtowed repeatedly like a stray dog. Mr. Li, you're a magnanimous person. Please don't lower yourself to my level. Just treat me like a fart and let me go. I'll break both my legs as an apology. Lu Xingyuan wanted to kill this Feng Jindai who almost ruined his plans. How dare he act so pretentious in front of Mr. Li? Even he didn't dare to do it. How dare you? Mr. Li, I made a mistake. I've embarrassed myself in front of you. I'll order my men to send him to the human beast cage. Master Lu, please don't. I beg you to spare me. Feng Jindai was scared to death when he heard that. He hugged Lu Xingyuan's leg and begged. His abdomen tightened and he couldn't hold back his urge to pee. Feng Jindai, who was arrogant just now, was now scared like a dead dog. Lu Jie leaned against the corridor wall, her delicate body trembling. At this moment, she realized that she was an idiot who thought too highly of herself. Fancy her? Pick up girls? Harass her? These thoughts were just her own wishful thinking from the beginning to the end. Someone who could make Master Lu kneel without hesitation would fancy her? Dream on. Guards. Lu Xingyuan didn't care how Feng Jindai cried. He immediately called out sternly. Then, a few bodyguards walked up. Feng Jindai was so scared that he peed his pants. Master Lu, please don't. Forget it. I didn't take this to heart, Li Daochong said. He only cared about the bracelet. Why would he care about such a small matter? If Li Daochong really cared, he could have used his telekinesis to attack and turn Feng Jindai into an idiot without anyone noticing. There was no need to wait for Lu Xingyuan to appear. Lu Xingyuan didn't want to be ruthless. Now that he heard that Mr. Li was pardoning him, he said, Rice Bucket, hurry up and thank Mr. Li. Get lost. Go take a shower. Don't embarrass me here. Feng Jindai felt like he was being pardoned. He kowtowed repeatedly. "Thank you, Mr. Li. Thank you, Mr. Li." Then, he scrambled to the bathroom. Lu Xingyuan turned his gaze to Yang Xingyu. "Who are you?" Yang Xingyu's face was as pale as paper. He couldn't speak. He didn't dare to introduce himself. Li Daochong didn't want to waste time. He only said, "Let him go." Lu Xingyuan glared at Yang Xingyu. "Hurry up and get lost." "Yes, yes, yes. I'll get lost. I'll get lost." Yang Xingyu nodded repeatedly and ran away. He wanted to break through the window and jump out. Lu Jie didn't know what to do and followed suit. "Miss Lu, wait a minute." Li Daochong's voice came from behind Lu Jie. Chapter 272. Lu Jie was so scared that her face turned pale. She didn't know what to do. She had never been nice to Mr. Li. That kind of attitude would make anyone hate him. Lu Jie felt that she was done for. She couldn't keep her job and would probably be kicked out of the Lu family. "Mr. Li, Lu Jie stuttered, not knowing what to say. "Miss Lu, with your master as a guarantor, can you lend me your bracelet for a day?" Li Daochong went straight to the point. Sure." Lu Jie didn't dare to refuse. She quickly took off the bracelet and handed it over. Li Daochong took the bracelet and said, "Thank you." "No, you're welcome." Lu Jie looked at Li Daochong in awe. This young man was not only mysterious and tall in her eyes, but also filled with an indescribable sense of oppression. "Can I go now?" Lu Jie asked carefully. She didn't want the bracelet anymore. "Of course, I'll return it to you tomorrow." Li Daochong nodded. No, Mr. Li, you can have it if you like it." "It's a gift," Lu Jie said quickly. Li Daochong thought for a moment and said, "I'll sell it to you. Do you want spirit stones or something else?" No, Mr. Li, you can have it." Lu Jie didn't dare to take money from the master of the house. "Just sell it to me. Mr. Li is a cultivator. Do you think he'll take advantage of you?" Lu Xingyuan said unhappily. Then I'll give you 10 spirit stones." Lu Jie didn't dare to ask for money. She said it simply. "Your bracelet is an upper-grade Earth-level protective Dharma treasure. It has the function of nourishing the spirit and calming the mind. It's very helpful for the person who wears it to cultivate. It's just that it's lost its effect because of the death aura. I won't let you lose out. I'll buy it for 1,000 spirit stones," Li Daochong said lightly. Lu Xingyuan was surprised. He didn't expect that a lowly employee under him would have an Earth-level protective Dharma treasure. Then, Li Daochong took out 1,000 spirit stones and piled them on the ground. Lu Jie didn't know whether to accept them or not. In the past, Lu Jie wouldn't even dare to think about having so many spirit stones. 1,000 primary-grade spirit stones were enough for her to live comfortably for the rest of her life. Even if she was extravagant, she might not be able to spend it. "Why aren't you putting it away?" "Thank you, Mr. Li," Lu Xingyuan said when he saw Lu Jie standing there in a daze. "Thank you, Mr. Li." Only then did Lu Jie put the 1,000 spirit stones into her dimensional bag. "Mr. Li, come with me," Lu Xingyuan said. Li Daochong nodded and followed Lu Xingyuan. Looking at the young man's back, Lu Jie's intestines turned green with regret. She had actually treated such a person coldly, ruining her own good fortune for nothing. Master Lu had just said that he was a cultivator. Only then did Lu Jie realize how stupid she was. She was afraid that she would never have such an opportunity again in her life. She was still ambitious enough to find a cultivator as a partner. When a cultivator stood in front of her, she treated him like a playboy. No one else could do that. Li Daochong followed Lu Xingyuan to the Sky Garden on the top floor of the Xingyuan building. The entire floor was Lu Xingyuan's private residence. Other than his daughter, Lu Zhenjin, no one else was allowed to enter. The bodyguards could only stand guard outside the floor. "Mr. Li, have you diagnosed my condition?" Lu Xingyuan immediately asked after closing the door. "Yes," Li Daochong calmly replied. Lu Xingyuan's eyes lit up. "Mr. Li, name a price." I won't bargain. Lu Xingyuan was very clear about his condition. If he didn't receive treatment soon, he wouldn't be able to live for long. Money was just a worldly possession. How could it compare to his life? As for Lu Xingyuan's condition, Li Daochong didn't need to do any diagnosis at all. As long as he killed the withered ghost in the bracelet and channeled some spirit energy to nourish Lu Xingyuan's vitality, he would be able to recover. However, he naturally couldn't tell Lu Xingyuan the reason directly. It was still necessary to pretend to go through the treatment process. Li Daochong took out a piece of paper from his chest. On it were the names of more than 10 materials. He handed it to Lu Xingyuan and said, "I'll cure you. Help me prepare all the materials written on this piece of paper for me. None of them should be less than 2 kilograms." Lu Xingyuan took the paper. After glancing at it, he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at Li Daochong with a bit more respect. As the chairman of a large cultivation company, how could Lu Xingyuan not recognize these materials? They were all rare materials used to make level 8 and even level 9 talismans. Every one of them was priceless. Gathering all the materials would cost at least a few $100 million Federation dollars. However, this price was already very low for Lu Xingyuan. A few days ago, he told Li Daochong that he would go bankrupt and give the Lu family cultivation company to Li Daochong without a problem. "Mr. Li, don't worry. Although these materials aren't easy to get, I've been doing business for so many years. I still have many channels. I'll definitely send them all to Mr. Li within a week," Lu Xingyuan said, patting his chest. Then let's begin," Li Daochong replied. Naturally, Li Daochong had already thought of the treatment process. He spent an hour opening up Lu Xingyuan's meridians. Then, he poured spirit energy into his body. Finally, he wrote a prescription. In reality, it was all spirit herbs that nourished the body. Li Daochong just slightly adjusted the ratio, as well as the things to take note of when brewing it. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem if Lu Xingyuan didn't eat it. It was just that the treatment process had to be done properly. "Mr. Li, will I be better after eating these medicines?" Lu Xingyuan asked worriedly. His strange illness had cost him a lot of money over the years. Many self-cultivators had tried to treat it, but to no avail. "You just need to follow my instructions. Follow the dosage every day, once in the morning and once in the evening. You'll be cured in 49 days. As Li Daochong spoke, he walked out. Right now, he only had one thought in his mind: find a deserted place and kill the withered ghost in the bracelet. Mr. Li, but I don't feel much change in my body right now." Lu Xingyuan was still worried. This illness had been tormenting him for too long. Even though Li Daochong's treatment method was different from other self-cultivators, he still felt that it was too simple. "What, you don't trust me?" Li Daochong frowned and looked displeased. Li Daochong didn't release any pressure or spirit energy, but Lu Xingyuan couldn't help but take a step back. The scene of this young man killing the Wraith-level vampire a few days ago was still vivid in his mind. Lu Xingyuan knew very well that he couldn't afford to offend someone with such strength. "Of course not, Mr. Li. I definitely trust you," Lu Xingyuan said hurriedly. "That's good. You just need to follow my instructions. I'll come back tomorrow to unblock your meridians. There will be an effect." After speaking, Li Daochong walked to the edge of the garden in the sky without looking back. He directly jumped down from the top of the skyscraper. "Mr. Li, this way." As soon as Lu Xingyuan spoke, there was no sign of him. Even though Lu Xingyuan knew that self-cultivators could fly on swords, he was still shocked when he saw Mr. Li jump down from the 100-story Xingyuan building with his own eyes. He hurriedly ran to the guardrail and looked down. However, when he looked down, there was no sign of him. The moment Li Daochong jumped down, he performed the 8th level of the 9 cracks saber technique, high air slash, and drove the Tsang ink away. After Li Daochong reached the peak of qi gathering, his spirit energy was even more abundant. he could fly on his saber for a short period of time. Of course, the distance was not too far. He could fly freely within 10 kilometers. Beyond this distance, he would be exhausted. Li Daochong stood on the Tsang Ink and looked down at Crimson Sun City. The wind was whistling in his ears. He couldn't be too distracted at this time. The flying on his saber was not very stable. It was inevitable that it would go up and down and sway left and right. However, the feeling of flying on a saber for the first time was really good. Li Daochong didn't fly too far. After shooting for a short distance, he landed in a deserted alley. He then quickly ran out of Crimson Sun City. An hour later, Li Daochong had arrived in a mountain more than 300 kilometers southwest of Crimson Sun City. After finding a deserted place in the forest, he took out the bracelet and hung it on the branch of a big tree. Li Daochong stood dozens of meters away. He held the level 10 talisman between his right index and middle finger. He used his telekinesis and channeled the spirit energy in his body into the talisman. Swoosh! The level 10 talisman whizzed out. Boom! There was a deafening sound and a blast of air. A fireball with a diameter of more than 10 meters shot up into the sky. Dozens of big trees fell down. Within a radius of 50 meters, not a single blade of grass was left. It was scorched black. Li Daochong was shocked. Was this the power of a level 10 talisman? It was much stronger than a tomahawk missile. Beat. Withered ghost killed. Soul power gained. Host leveled up to level 16. Li Daochong only felt the spirit energy in his body surging. His spirit roots spiraled, and his spirit meridians melted and gathered. In his dantian, a palm-sized spirit placenta slowly formed. In just a few minutes, the spirit energy around Li Daochong condensed and formed a faint spirit energy shield. Cultivation breakthrough. Chapter 273. While Li Daochong was using the level 10 talisman to kill the withered ghost, in the distant starry sky, at the border of the Federation's 9 rings starfield, in the depths of a mountain range on a huge dark red planet, a pale-faced young man sat cross-legged on a cliff. He let out a muffled groan, a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. Intercourse suddenly opened his snake eyes. Damn it! Intercourse cursed, and the aura of death around him weakened a bit. Xiang Yu, your clone has been killed by someone. A cold voice came from behind. If Li Daochong heard this voice, he would be shocked and in disbelief. Li Daochong couldn't be more familiar with this voice. It was the voice of his master, Chu Qianyue. Intercourse hurriedly turned around and half knelt. Your Highness, your humble servant has miscalculated. I didn't expect a cultivator with such powerful telekinesis to appear on a small 4th-class cultivation planet. A trace of regret flashed across Chu Qianyue's cold and beautiful face. It seems we won't be able to get back the treasure on Red Sunday. Your Highness, your humble servant will take back the treasure even if I have to sacrifice my life. Intercourse said with a trembling body. He always felt terrified when facing Her Highness. Although Her Highness was weaker than him, his intuition told him that this long-lost daughter of the witch ancestor was very dangerous. 3 months ago, the witch ancestor took the risk of being discovered by a great cultivator of the human race to descend on 13 Specter just to see his long-lost daughter. The witch ancestor hadn't left the Hades abyss for more than 70 years. He had been recovering and waiting for the next full-scale invasion. But when he found out that his daughter had appeared on 13 Specter, he ignored the ban of the Hades and secretly descended on 13 Specter just to see his daughter. From this, it could be seen that the witch ancestor cared a lot about his daughter. After reuniting with his daughter, the witch ancestor immediately announced that she was the Rakshasa state's Princess Qianyue. In the Rakshasa state of the Hades, there was only one person above her. Not only that, but Ancestor Sorcerer also trusted his daughter, whom he had not seen for more than 70 years. He had directly given her command of the Dark Ghost army of 100,000. The attack on the most important territory of the Shenghua Federation was also under her command, and the intercourse also became her subordinates. However, the intercourse had doubts about this. He felt that the witch ancestor's decision was too hasty. No matter how much he doted on his daughter, he could not take away the territory that the Rakshasa state had fought for hundreds of years with great difficulty. Humph! Chu Qianyue coldly snorted. How can I take it? The space crack that you spent years to open has been sealed, and your doppelganger has been killed. What other trump cards do you have left? Intercourse was dissatisfied with being reprimanded, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. He respectfully replied, Your Highness, as a precaution, I still have a Foundation establishment puppet lurking on planet Crimson Sunday. I didn't want to use this trump card unless it was absolutely necessary, but now I have no choice but to use it. I'll give you 3 more months. If you still can't get that thing back, you can go and take it yourself. Chu Qianyue's figure flashed and disappeared, leaving behind only a cold sentence. When Chu Qianyue's aura completely disappeared, the intercourse stood up with an angry expression on his face. Humph! A bastard who is neither human nor ghost. If it wasn't for the witch ancestor saving me, even if you were the witch ancestor's descendant, I would still devour you. After the intercourse finished speaking, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and raised his head to look at the fantasy night sky of 13 Specter. A soul thought passed through the invisible door and shot into the Ouyang family's old residence on planet Crimson Sunday. The Ouyang family's ancestor, Ouyang, who was in seclusion to break through to the Jin Dan stage. Chao, Xen Huanyo, Lin Pin Liang, Bad Basket 3, Ching Xia Frozen Flounder Desolated Uju Simmering Theta Chi, Tan. After Li Daochong broke through to the Foundation establishment stage, the spiritual energy in his body was very different from before. After the formation of the spirit placenta, the spiritual energy in his body actually began to liquefy, gradually turning from a gaseous state to a liquid state. The spiritual energy turned into liquid and its purity was greatly improved, and its content was also increased several times. Li Daochong was overjoyed. He immediately returned to the underground city and entered the cultivation room that Xing Jiao had specially arranged for him to consolidate his cultivation. Because Li Daochong's foundation was very solid and coupled with his dual spirit roots, the advancement was just a matter of time and there were no difficulties. Therefore, it didn't take too much time to consolidate his cultivation. After a day, his cultivation was completely stabilized and he officially became an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. The next day, Li Daochong came to the Xingyuan building again as promised. This time, Lu Xingyuan was already waiting at the door. Seeing Li Daochong, Lu Xingyuan couldn't stop smiling. After yesterday's treatment, his body didn't show any signs of improvement at first. But at night, Lu Xingyuan could clearly feel that his entire body was filled with energy. He was no longer exhausted and was much more energetic. After taking the medicine according to Mr. Li's prescription, Lu Xingyuan felt like a different person when he woke up in the morning. It was as if he was 20 years younger. It was really effective. Lu Xingyuan was ecstatic. At the same time, he had a new understanding of Mr. Li's abilities. Where did this young man come from? Not only was his combat ability strong and his cultivation profound, but he was also an alchemist who was proficient in ancient medicine. How could such a person be unknown? Although Lu Xingyuan was curious, he knew that all this was not something he could pry into. Mr. Li might be the last disciple of some powerful person on the Kangwu planet, and he was only on the Red Sun planet to gain experience. No matter what, such a person was definitely not someone the Lu family could afford to offend. If he could gain Mr. Li's favor, it would only be beneficial for the Lu family in the future. Lu Xingyuan ordered his men to prepare the materials overnight and used many connections. Although the materials Mr. Li wanted were precious, it was not impossible to get them. Level 8 and Level 9 talismans were common weapons in the self-cultivator army. With the Lu family's connections and financial resources, as long as Lu Xingyuan was sincere in getting these materials, he could still get them quickly. In order to gain Mr. Li's favor, Lu Xingyuan used half of the Lu family's power and used all kinds of methods. It only took him one night to gather all the materials Mr. Li wanted. Li Daochong never imagined that Lu Xingyuan would actually be able to gather all the things he wanted overnight. When he saw the talisman crafting materials placed on the table, he revealed a wisp of astonishment. "Mr. Li, you really are a miracle worker. I feel so energetic now, and I'm more than 20 years younger. I really don't know how to thank you. The materials are ready, please take a look." Lu Xingyuan praised without holding back. Li Daochong did not need to take a look. He scanned the materials with his telekinesis and knew whether they were complete and what their quality was. Every material was of the highest quality, and there were no impurities. Li Daochong wiped his hand, and all the materials were put into his dimensional bag. Without saying anything, he immediately transferred spirit qi to Lu Xingyuan. As soon as the withered life ghost died, the soul-sucking silk thread that was connected to Lu Xingyuan's body naturally broke, and the strange disease was cured. However, over the past few days, more than half of Lu Xingyuan's life force had been absorbed. If he did not replenish it with spirit qi in time, his life would be shortened, and he would not live past 60. Seeing that Lu Xingyuan was so sensible, Li Daochong would not be stingy with the spirit qi. He replenished Lu Xingyuan's life force and gave him a little reward, allowing Lu Xingyuan to break through to level 6 of qi refining. Lu Xingyuan did not expect to be able to break through, so he immediately kowtowed to Li Daochong and asked him to be his master. "I'm not taking any disciples for now, but seeing how sincere you are, you can be my registered disciple for now," Li Daochong said lightly. "Yes, master." Lu Xingyuan did not dare to think about becoming a disciple of a mighty figure. He was already very satisfied with being a registered disciple. "Don't call me master, I'm not your master. Just call me Mr. Li." Li Daochong stopped him. "Yes, Mr. Li. Please accept this bow from your disciple." Lu Xingyuan bowed deeply. Li Daochong did not stop him. He had saved Lu Xingyuan's life, and he had even given him a few decades of life. He had even helped him break through, so he was naturally worthy of Lu Xingyuan's kowtow. "Get up. Do you know if there have been any unusual movements on the Crimson Sun planet recently?" Li Daochong asked calmly. There was a reason why he wanted to take Lu Xingyuan as his registered disciple. Li Daochong had already planned to bring Yin Ping, Li Qingyao, and his father to the Crimson Sun planet. He did not plan to go back to the Blue Bay Star, and there was nothing to miss about that place. The Crimson Sun planet was just a springboard. Li Daochong's target was the Kangwu planet, or even the Central Star region of the Federation. Li Daochong always felt that the Fourth Ring Star region was no longer safe. The strange things that kept happening on the Crimson Sun planet were the best examples. There was also the black hole in the Hades that appeared during the direct test. Li Daochong felt that the Fourth Ring Star region was becoming more and more unsafe. Therefore, Li Daochong needed to pave a way out. At the same time, Li Daochong also wanted to develop his own force. In the future, he would need to rely on people. He could not just rely on himself. Moreover, most of his attention would be focused on killing the nether ghosts and leveling up. He would not have too many distractions and would need other people to do it. Third Master Yin, Lu Xingyuan, and Tseng Jiao were his first step in developing his force. Li Daochong knew very well that the internal forces of the Shenghua Federation were very complicated. Unless he could reach the soul formation stage, his power alone would be limited. Third Master Yin was a local tyrant. He controlled part of the underground forces on the Crimson Sun planet and could do some shady things. Tseng Jiao was a mid-level official of the Shadow Serene House. In the future, she might become a high-ranking official. Li Daochong would need more and more high-grade materials in the future, and Tseng Jiao would be of great help. Lu Xingyuan was the representative of the White Dao on the Crimson Sun planet. The four great families might be more powerful than the Lu family, but because they had patriarch-level people, self-cultivators, and even Jin Dan cultivators in their families, Li Daochong could not control them with his current strength. The Yin family was at most friends. That was another form of relationship. It was not in Li Daochong's plans. Mr. Li, as far as I know, the biggest anomaly on the Crimson Sun planet recently is the spatial crack that appeared in Shuangyuan town, where we were a few days ago. This has already alerted the higher-ups of the Crimson Sun planet. It is said that the three masters of the Crimson Sun planet have all been dispatched to investigate this matter. The area hundreds of kilometers around Shuangyuan town has been sealed off by the local self-cultivator army. No one is allowed to enter or leave without permission. Lu Xingyuan told him everything he knew. Other than this, is there nothing else? For example, did any rare treasures appear? Li Daochong continued asking. Chapter 274. The Undying Soul Coffin was a precious soul-nourishing treasure used by dark ghosts, the Grand Wizard of the Hades and above. Similar to how human cultivators absorbed spiritual energy, it could greatly increase their cultivation speed. It could also heal injuries. No matter how serious the injury, as long as the dark ghost wasn't dead, it could quickly recover while lying in the Undying Soul Coffin. Even if only a wisp of the dark ghost's soul remained, it could recover to its peak state in 49 days. The Hades were vast and boundless, with countless dark ghosts and countless dark treasures. However, the Undying Soul Coffin was extremely rare. According to historical records, there were no more than 5 known Undying Soul Coffins. There was actually one on planet Crimson Sun? Li Daochong fell into deep thought after hearing Lu Xingyuan's word. Ever since Li Daochong had arrived on planet Crimson Sun, he had a vague feeling that there was something dark ghosts wanted here. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to such great lengths to come up with so many tricks. First, it was the black wrath-binding spirit that possessed the Yin family. If Anmanian hadn't gone to Blue Bay Star and met Li Daochong, the Yin family wouldn't have been able to escape. The Yin family would probably have become the puppets of dark ghosts. Then, there were spatial overlaps, vampires, and nether beasts. Then, there were the witch ghost clones. Li Daochong had encountered so many of them. There should be more that he hadn't encountered yet. The Hades's actions didn't seem like a big deal. After all, they hadn't stopped for so many years. But the crucial thing was that to come up with so many tricks without being discovered, the effort and price involved were completely different. To do things under the noses of human cultivators without being discovered, not only did it require an extremely meticulous plan, it also required countless dark ghosts to pave the way. The price was extremely high. First, teleporting dark ghosts to planet Crimson Sun was no easy task. At the same time, it required sufficient patience and time. After a few years, just as they were about to succeed, Li Daochong's appearance put Hades's plans on hold. Li Daochong didn't believe that Hades would give up just like that. The rumor about the Undying Soul Coffin was very likely true. If it wasn't such an important thing, why would they spend so much effort to conspire? After Li Daochong left Xingyuan building, he returned to the dungeon and contacted Tseng Jiao and Third Master Yin. He asked them to investigate the matter and inform him immediately if there was any news. After instructing the two of them, Li Daochong started to make level 8 and level 9 talismans. The materials that Lu Xingyuan had prepared were enough for Li Daochong to squander, so there was no need to worry about failure. There would definitely be mistakes and deviations in the beginning, so failure was inevitable. The higher the grade of the talisman, the higher the error rate. Even though Li Daochong had already reached foundation establishment, he still couldn't achieve a 100% success rate. After a whole day, Li Daochong actually failed to produce a single one. All of them were failures, and the materials wasted amounted to over 100 million Federation coins. Being a spirit sequencer was really a money-burning profession. Of course, it was also very profitable. The lowest price for a level 8 talisman on the market was 50 million, which was equivalent to 10 to 20,000 normal spirit stones. The materials that Li Daochong failed to produce could be used to make more than 10 level 8 talismans. If the success rate was 50%, 6 or 7 talismans could be sold for over 300 million Federation coins, and the cost was 100 million. The talismans that Li Daochong produced were all enhanced versions, so the price was even higher. No matter how one looked at it, it was an extremely profitable business. Of course, Li Daochong didn't need to rely on selling talismans to earn money. He kept all the talismans he produced for his own use. Talismans were like cannonballs that could only be used once. No matter what, the more the better. Li Daochong was so engrossed in the world of the spirit sequence that he forgot to eat and sleep. It was as if he had returned to the days when he was a programmer and used the keyboard. On the second day, Li Daochong had gained some insights and was able to produce talismans more smoothly. Finally, after the 20th failure, he succeeded. The first enhanced level 8 fire talisman was produced. On this day, Li Daochong produced 3 successful talismans. On the third day, he began to try to create level 9 talismans. Li Daochong was completely immersed in the sea of weaving spirit sequence runes. He was intoxicated. The spirit runes on the bracelet had given Li Daochong too much inspiration. In addition to Li Daochong's programming skills from his previous life, he also successfully produced a level 9 talisman 2 days later. This was the most serious and focused Li Daochong had ever made a talisman. The level 10 fire talisman that killed the withered life ghost had left a deep impression on Li Daochong. If he could produce talismans himself and carry a few with him, he would have the power to fight against soul-catcher ghosts. Even if he couldn't defeat them, he would be able to use the level 10 talisman to protect himself. Not only that, with the level 10 talisman, Li Daochong would have the ability to challenge peak foundation establishment stage cultivators and even Jin Dan stage cultivators. After reaching foundation establishment, Li Daochong could feel how much spirit chi he needed to advance to the next level. Foundation establishment was just the beginning of a cultivator's journey. There was still a long way to go. If he didn't prepare some trump cards for himself, Li Daochong wouldn't feel at ease. Another day passed. For 5 days and 5 nights, Li Daochong didn't rest for a second. He didn't even close his eyes. He was like a machine that didn't know fatigue, weaving spirit sequences, studying runes, and creating talismans with all his focus. 3 level 8 ice talismans and 4 level 9 thunder talismans were finally produced. If it wasn't for the fact that the materials were all used up, Li Daochong wouldn't have stopped. Although he had successfully created the talismans, Li Daochong wasn't very satisfied. The success rate was still too low. However, with these 7 talismans, Li Daochong's confidence was boosted by a bit. After Li Daochong stopped, he sent 2 long-distance messages to ask about Third Master Yin and Xing Jiao's movements. Both of them replied that they hadn't. After that, Li Daochong rested for half a day. In fact, he just took a nap. When he woke up, he immediately started to refine the Scorching Sun elixir. Li Daochong had shown Old Man was Scorching Sun grass to Old Man Zhang. Old Man Zhang had determined that the Scorching Sun grass had a growth cycle of 200 years. Old Man Zhang really wanted to refine the Scorching Sun elixir for Li Daochong himself. However, he had to return to Blue Bay Star. Therefore, he left behind a recipe for the Scorching Sun elixir. Li Daochong didn't have any experience in refining pills and didn't know how to refine pills. However, Old Man Zhang had given him a mini AI pill furnace. He only needed to put the spirit herbs in the correct ratio. The refinement of the Scorching Sun elixir wasn't complicated. Although it was a 1-star spirit pill, it wasn't a cultivation spirit pill. It was only an attribute-type pill. Only cultivators with fire spirit veins or thunder spirit veins could use it. In addition, the scorching sun grass was a spirit herb that was over 100 years old. It wasn't difficult to refine a scorching sun elixir with a decent quality. Li Daochong started to refine the scorching sun elixir himself. In just half a day, he had successfully refined the scorching sun elixir. Li Daochong immediately swallowed it into his stomach and sat down to digest the medicinal energy. He gathered and consolidated the spirit sun lightning that was continuously spilling out of his body and merged it into his spirit embryo foundation plate. It completely became his attribute. Another day passed and Li Daochong finally completed the consolidation of the spirit sun lightning. He finally merged the lightning into his own and didn't have to worry about it spilling out anymore. When Li Daochong saw that there was no news, he continued to meditate and adjust his breath. Recently, he had been running around and hadn't consolidated his cultivation for a long time. Naturally, he wouldn't waste any time. As Li Daochong adjusted his breath, he waited for news from Tsing Jiao and the third Master Yin. Another day passed and in the afternoon, Li Daochong's wristwatch finally received a message from 1,000 miles away and made a sound. Li Daochong opened his wristwatch and focused his gaze. The message wasn't from Tsing Jiao or the third Master Yin. It was from Wenwan. After parting at Floating Snow Town, Li Daochong had almost forgotten about this girl whom he had met by chance. He didn't think much of the message she had left. Chapter 275. After reading the message, Li Daochong's eyes flashed. Wenwan knew about the ancient tomb? Oh right, Wenwan had mentioned the ancient tomb on the way to Floating Snow Town. Li Daochong didn't pay much attention to it at that time. Wenwan's level 10 talisman was found in the ancient tomb. Li Daochong shot out like an arrow with a thought. His speed was so fast that it was hard to see with the naked eye. The speed of a foundation establishment cultivator was far beyond the normal range. Tsing Jiao stood outside the cultivation room. She had just received news that the ancient tomb was located in a primeval forest near the equator of planet Qiyang. Tsing Jiao felt a gust of wind and a shadow flashed by. It disappeared in the blink of an eye. When she knocked on the door of the cultivation room, the door was unlocked and opened slowly. Li Daochong was nowhere to be seen. Li Daochong exited the underground city in a short while and sent a message to Wenwan. "Where are you?" A few seconds later, Wenwan replied. "I am in the basement of an abandoned house in the slums of the southern suburbs of Qiyang City. Someone is following me. When you are nearby, I will send you my location." After reading the message, Li Daochong used his telekinesis and the Tsang ink flew out of his storage bag. Li Daochong tapped his foot and leaped up gently. He landed on the Tsang ink floating in the air. At this moment, Li Daochong was controlling the Tsang ink again. It was obviously much easier for him. He didn't feel tired anymore and the spiritual energy in his body was endless. Li Daochong still needed more practice in terms of flying stability, but he couldn't care less about that now. Sitting on the azure ink saber, Li Daochong soared into the clouds and flew towards the southern outskirts of Scarlet Sun City. In less than half an hour, Li Daochong arrived near the southern suburbs. He put away the Tsang ink and walked into the slums. The condition of the houses here was much worse than that of the slums in Tianyuan City. Half of the houses were in a half-collapsed state, with broken tiles everywhere. Li Daochong entered the slums and immediately sent a message to Wenwan to inform her that he had arrived. But this time, after sending the message, there was no reply. Li Daochong frowned and felt that Wenwan's situation was not good. His psyche power, which had been further strengthened after he reached the Zhuji realm, instantly spread out. In just a few seconds, Li Daochong detected the aura on Wenwan's body. She was about 5 or 6 kilometers away from him. Li Daochong was about to fly again when he suddenly sensed several powerful auras, each of which was far beyond the level of qi gathering. All of them were Foundation establishment cultivators, and they shuttled through the air. Li Daochong didn't want to expose himself, so he gave up on flying and ran away. 5 kilometers away, in an abandoned dojo overgrown with weeds, Wenwan was surrounded by 2 men in black. Although the dojo had been abandoned for many years, one could still vaguely see that it had once been glorious. It was now a slum, and 100 years ago, it used to be the center of Qiyang City. When Wenwan saw the 2 men in black, her pretty face showed a shocked expression. She didn't expect that she would still be discovered even though she had carefully erased her traces. The people who could discover Wenwan's hidden traces were either Foundation establishment cultivators or people who were very familiar with her. Wenwan would rather it be the former, but unfortunately, it was the latter. These 2 were Wenwan's colleagues when she was a thug at the base of the Dark Knight. One was called Situnan and the other was called Chun Lei. Both of them were stronger than Wenwan. They were body cultivators at the early stage of qi gathering and belonged to the super master level among martial artists. For ordinary people, they were definitely masters among masters. Situnan was Wenwan's immediate superior in the Dark Knight. If she wanted a task, she had to listen to his arrangement. Situnan's cunning face had a chuckle. When he looked at Wenwan, there was no comradeship in his eyes. There was nothing but greed. "Little Wan, do you want to cooperate with us or do you want us to do it?" Chen Lei asked in a rough voice. This man was big and burly with a fierce face. His face was full of pockmarks and was as ugly as it could be. "Chen Lei, what did you say? I don't understand. Why would the 2 of you come to a place like this? Is there no business recently?" Wenwan pretended to be stupid. Pretended to be stupid? "Little Wan, if you let me and Nan do it, you will suffer." Chen Lei sneered. "Lei, what are you talking about? How could we do anything to Little Wan? We worked together before." Situ Nan said hypocritically. "Brother Nan, Brother Lei, I just made an appointment with a friend to meet here." When Wan continued to play dumb, she was interrupted by Situ Nan halfway through her sentence. "Lil Wan, playing dumb isn't your style. Let's not beat around the bush. I know that your ancestor is a tomb keeper. Now, the entire Scarlet Sun planet is looking for that ancient tomb, and all the tomb robbers on Scarlet Sun planet have met with misfortune. A few of the thieves were discovered selling several ancient treasures, and those thieves were very afraid of death, so after some simple interrogation, they all confessed. They even brought a few self-cultivators to the ancient tomb, but when those thieves went to the ancient tomb again, they couldn't find it. In the end, they were interrogated by someone, and your figure appeared in their soul consciousness. Now, everyone on Scarlet Sun planet knows about this matter and is looking for you. Lil Wan, Lazy and I won't make things difficult for you. As long as you lead us to the ancient tomb, you can leave. When the time comes, Brother Nan will even give you a generous guidance fee. How about it?" Situ Nan said with a smile. "Brother Nan, I really don't know what you're talking about. What ancient tomb? I've never even heard of it," Wen Wan said as she hurriedly ran away. "You want to run?" Chun Lei shouted and shot out like an arrow. His speed was at least twice as fast as Wen Wan's. Seeing that she was about to be caught, Wen Wan threw the small knife in her hand at Chun Lei's neck. Chun Lei raised his arm to block. Clang! A crisp sound rang out. His arm was as hard as an iron rod. Wen Wan's throwing knife didn't even leave a scratch on his skin. Chen Lei punched out and Wen Wan blocked it with her arms. With a bang, her whole body was sent flying, crashing into the wall of the training hall. She bounced off the wall and landed on the ground. Her blood and qi were in turmoil, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Wen Wan didn't care about her injuries and struggled to stand up. But when she raised her head, Situ Nan had already appeared in front of her. He looked down at her with a smile. "Wen Wan, you're making things difficult for Brother Nan. You know, Brother Nan has always treated you as his sister. You can't let Brother Nan down. Situ Nan's tone was casual, but his foot was firmly stepping on Wan's calf. Crack, crack. There was a slight sound of bones breaking. Wan was in so much pain that she almost fainted. Her pale face was full of despair. Li Daochong, where are you? Why haven't you sent a message yet? Wan thought with a painful expression. I'll break your legs. You should be more obedient, Situ Nan said with a thoughtful expression. He looked a little crazy. Brother Nan, cripple her cultivation too, so that she won't play any tricks on the way. Chun Lei followed. Wan was famous for being vicious in the dark night. Chun Lei was a little worried. Don't, I'll take you there, Wan said anxiously. Hee, are you not going to take me with you after I cripple your cultivation? Situ Nan laughed. You? Wan was stunned speechless. It's not good for the two of you to bully a girl like this. A calm voice came from outside the training hall. Who? Chun Lei was shocked. Chapter 276. Li Daochong slowly approached the abandoned training hall. He looked at Situ Nan and Chun Lei with an indifferent expression, then his gaze landed on the pale-faced Wan with blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. Situ Nan and Chun Lei were both stunned by the sudden appearance of someone. Currently, all the major forces on planet Crimson Sun were ready to make a move. They were all eyeing the legendary ancient tomb. The immortal soul coffin was one of the 3 ancient treasures of the Hades. Although it was a treasure of the underworld, self-cultivators could still use it. It was said that it could keep one's soul from dying and make one immortal. Such a temptation was extremely tempting to anyone. The news had just spread, so they had to find it as soon as possible. Otherwise, they would lose their chance. Once the military and powerful self-cultivators joined the fray, there would be nothing left for them to do. Situ Nan and Chun Lei both scanned Li Daochong at the same time. However, this kid was only at level 3 Qi refining. Even if he hid his aura, he could not have surpassed the peak of Qi refining. Only then did Situ Nan and Chun Lei relax their vigilance. Kid, there's a path to heaven but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell but you just have to barge in. Chun Lei's gloomy face was filled with viciousness. Little guy, do you want to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? Situ Nan said with a playful tone. Li Daochong did not say anything. He just kept walking towards the two. Little brat, how dare you show off in front of me? You're looking for death. Chun Lei shouted angrily as he stomped on the ground. His huge body shot towards Li Daochong like a cannonball. Chun Lei raised his huge fist and punched towards Li Daochong's face. Whoosh! A slight wind blew past his ear. Chun Lei's fist flew through the air. The young man in front of him disappeared into thin air like magic. Chun Lei looked around with his eyes wide open. There was no sign of him. Did he run away? Behind Chun Lei, Situ Nan, who was stepping on Wan, was also stunned when the young man disappeared. In the next second, Situ Nan was dumbfounded. The young man who disappeared appeared in front of him, as if he had teleported. He still maintained his calm expression and looked at him calmly. Destroy your own cultivation, and I will consider letting you go. While Situ Nan was absent-minded, a faint sound wave entered her ears. Chun Lei, who was still looking around, heard the sound and turned around abruptly. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. When did he run behind me? The hairs on Chun Lei's body stood erect. He was an early-stage Qi-gathering body refiner. He was definitely one of the top martial artists. In terms of body refinement cultivators, there were probably not many on the Scarlet Sun planet who could surpass him and Situ Nan. Body cultivators practice slowly, but their battle prowess is strong. The battle prowess of a body cultivator in the early stage of the Qi gathering is comparable to that of a cultivator in the late stage of the Qi gathering. In close combat, even a cultivator in the peak stage of the Qi gathering is a fatal threat. Speed was the trump card of a body practitioner in close combat. However, this young man, who didn't even look 20 years old, was much faster than him. It was far beyond Chen Lei's comprehension. Was this the speed of a human? Even a ghost wouldn't be that fast. A bean-sized bead of sweat dripped down from the back of Chen Lei's head. Situnan was just as shocked. However, when he heard that this young man wanted him to destroy his own cultivation, he suppressed his fear and shouted, "In your dreams!" Situnan was shocked. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Wenwan's throat. "Your target is her. If you dare to move, I will kill her." "You can try." Li Daocheng's expression remained unchanged. When Wenwan heard these words, her heart suddenly trembled. Li Daocheng's words were emotionless, as if her life or death had nothing to do with him. Wenwan felt a sharp pain in her neck. It became difficult to breathe. She felt that her neck was about to be crushed. "Do you think I don't dare?" Situ-Nan's eyes were fierce, and his killing intent soared. Situ-Nan had always been a smiling tiger, but in fact, he was cruel and merciless. He killed people without batting an eye. At this time, he knew that the strength of this young man far surpassed him and Chen Lei. The detection of the cultivation detector was obviously wrong. Situ-Nan remembered what Wenwan said before. She said that she was here to meet a friend. It seemed that this young man was the friend that Wenwan mentioned. This young man seemed to be indifferent to Wenwan. Situ-Nan had been in the dark night for so many years. How could he be deceived by appearances? Situ-Nan was very clear that whether he killed Wenwan or not, this young man would not let him and Chen Lei go easily, because letting them go would only spread the news. Situ-Nan believed that this young man with unfathomable cultivation wouldn't be so stupid, and Wenwan wouldn't be so stupid either. Either way, he would die. Situ-Nan had no choice. He had no other choice but to fight to the death. Li Daocheng seemed to not hear Situ-Nan's words. He slowly stepped forward and reached out to support Wenwan. He treated Situ-Nan as heir. "Die!" Situ-Nan roared. He exerted force in his hand. He was determined to crush Wenwan's neck. "What's going on?" Situ-Nan exclaimed in the next second. No matter how much force he exerted, he could not feel anything in his hand. Li Daocheng pushed Situ-Nan's hand away and helped Wenwan up. Wenwan looked at Situ-Nan in surprise. What happened to him? Situ-Nan's sweat fell like rain. An unprecedented sense of fear rose from the soles of his feet to his head. His body was stiff and he lost consciousness. "What did you do to me?" The only thing that Situ-Nan could control was his vocal cords. Just as Li Daocheng helped Wenwan up, a sharp light flashed behind him. Chen Lei was holding a short knife. He chopped at Li Daocheng's back with lightning speed. "Be careful!" Wenwan exclaimed. Li Daocheng acted as if he did not hear anything. He did not turn around, nor did he make any defensive or evasive movements. He only helped Wenwan walk forward. When Chen Lei swung his knife, his body trembled violently. There was a buzzing sound in his head. His entire body suddenly froze. Just like Situ-Nan, he was rooted to the spot. Wenwan looked at this scene in shock. She suddenly remembered the few men who had surrounded her in the villa at the foot of the snowy mountain. At that time, they were also rooted to the spot. Even now, Wenwan did not understand what Li Daocheng had done to them. Now, the same scene happened again. Situ-Nan and Chen Lei were also rooted to the spot. However, the strength of these two people was not something that those men could compare to. In Wenwan's heart, Situ-Nan's strength was one of the strongest on planet Crimson Sunday. If Situ-Nan was given a high-grade Earth-class magic weapon, even a Foundation establishment cultivator would have to think twice before approaching him. This was the terrifying aspect of body cultivators. It was also because of this that Wenwan resolutely chose to become a body cultivator and not a cultivator. After the battle at Floating Snow Town, Wenwan knew that Li Daocheng was very powerful. He should be a middle or even late-stage cultivator of the Qi-gathering realm. In Wenwan's view, even if Li Daochong was more powerful than Situ Nan and Chun Lei, there was a limit. If the two of them worked together, Li Daochong might not even be a match for them. In the dark night, the strength of these two people was only a little bit away from entering the official assassin rating system. Wenwan could not imagine that they did not even have the qualifications to make Li Daochong attack. What kind of terrifying strength was this? Wenwan did not dare to imagine. Your leg is broken. Only when Li Daochong's voice sounded in Wenwan's ears did she regain her senses. Her pair of beautiful eyes did not look at Li Daochong. Instead, she looked at Situ Nan and Chun Lei, who were rooted to the spot. She wanted to see what would happen to the two of them. In just a few seconds, Situ Nan's eyes were bloodshot. His eyeballs bulged and blood began to flow out from them. Blood also flowed out from his nose. His head was swollen red and his expression was incomparably painful. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but no sound came out. Then his eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground with a plop. He was dead. Chapter 277. How did you do it? Wenwan asked in a daze. Do you know about telekinesis attacks? Li Daochong asked calmly as he carefully examined Wenwan's injuries. Her right leg was broken, her spirit meridians were slightly damaged, and her internal organs were also injured to varying degrees. Wenwan sucked in a breath of cold air when she heard about telekinesis attack. The awe in her eyes when she looked at Li Daochong became even more intense. How on earth did he cultivate? Not only was his cultivation unfathomable at such a young age, but he was also a telekinesis cultivator. Planet Crimson Sun was only a fourth-class planet. How could there be such a talented young man? Wenwan was absent-minded for a moment. Suddenly, her face flushed with shyness. A slender hand was pinching her leg. Don't move. Wenwan's delicate body trembled slightly. Li Daochong frowned and said seriously, Okay. Wenwan actually responded obediently. She really didn't move, allowing Li Daochong's hand to wander around her skin. Li Daochong didn't know that his actions caused Wenwan's heart to beat wildly. He was only focused on treating Wenwan's injuries. He transferred spirit energy into Wenwan's body. In order to improve the treatment and speed up the recovery, Li Daochong transferred a large amount of spirit energy into Wenwan's body. His palm had to wander around the injured area. In just a few minutes, Wenwan's previously painful and swollen calf had already recovered. Other than a slight itch, there was no more pain. Not only that, the chaotic spirit energy in Wenwan's body also recovered. Her body felt even more comfortable than when she was soaked in a high-grade spirit liquid. This wasn't the end. A spirit meridian in Wenwan's body that couldn't be connected was completely opened and awakened. In just a few minutes, Wenwan's injuries were almost completely healed. Her cultivation had also reached a new level. Alright, you can walk on your own now. Time is of the essence. Lead the way. Li Daochong withdrew his hand. Wenwan was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She just nodded blankly. Half an hour later, Wenwan felt the howling wind in her ears and looked at the rolling sea of clouds beneath her feet. Until now, she still couldn't believe that everything was real. He flew on his saber. Wenwan never dreamed that one day she would stand on the magical weapon of a real cultivator and soar into the sky. Cultivators were existences that stood above the masses. Although in this great cultivation era, anyone could cultivate and become a legendary cultivator, there were very few people who could actually do it. Not to mention becoming a cultivator, even meeting a cultivator was a small probability event. Especially for ordinary people, it was very difficult for them to meet a cultivator face to face. Wenwan estimated the upper limit of Li Daochong's strength several times. It wasn't until half an hour ago when Li Daochong took out a dark green saber and soared into the sky with her that she realized that she had underestimated Li Daochong. He turned out to be a cultivator. To fly on a saber, only foundation establishment cultivators could do it. No matter how talented you were, you couldn't do it in the chi gathering stage. At most, you could barely maintain a short distance flight. Half an hour later, Li Daochong didn't show the slightest sign of fatigue. It seemed that controlling a flying saber was a very easy thing to do. The flying speed was comparable to the flying shuttle. It was even faster. However, an hour later, Li Daochong landed from the sky. He took out the flying shuttle and drove it forward. Li Daochong had just reached the foundation establishment stage, so he wasn't very proficient in flying on a saber. This would cause him to waste a lot of spiritual energy in the process of flying on the saber. Li Daochong realized that if he really went to his destination like this, he would have to use up all the spiritual energy in his body. 60% of Red Sun Planet was ocean and 40% was land. It had a vast area and abundant spiritual energy. It was one of the top fourth-class cultivation planet. However, the population here wasn't very large. It was only 1/3 of Blue Bay Star's population. The main reason for the small population here was that Red Sun Planet was relatively large. The gravity here was 1.5 times that of Blue Bay Star. Ordinary people weren't very used to living here. A few hours later, Li Daochong arrived in the sky above a vast mountain range near the equator of Red Sun Planet according to Wenwan's directions. The mountain range was covered by tall primeval forests. The terrain was complex and changeable, and the climate was unpredictable. In the same place there was a thunderstorm 1 second, and the next second the sky might be clear. The sun was shining brightly, and the temperature quickly rose to 40 or 50 degrees. Red Sun Planet was named Red Sun Planet because 30% of the area here was super hot all year round. It was very difficult for ordinary people to survive. Only the northern and southern hemispheres were suitable for human habitation. After landing in the primeval forest, Li Daochong put away the flying shuttle. Wenwan took out an ancient map. The markings on the map were very strange. They changed every minute. Li Daochong's eyes revealed a trace of curiosity. "Miss Wen, is this map a Dharma treasure?" Wenwan carefully examined the map before replying, "Mr. Li, there's nothing special about this map. It's not a Dharma treasure. It's just that this map isn't a normal map. It's an array drawn by a spirit array. Before the Almighty died, he set up a spirit illusion restriction around the cave. Once you enter, you'll only go around in a certain area and then walk out from the other side. You'll never find the location of the ancient tomb. Even if you happen to enter the ancient tomb, you'll be ejected. When you retrace your steps, you'll find that the ancient tomb is no longer there." Li Daochong nodded thoughtfully. There were thousands of changes in spirit arrays. It was extremely mysterious. Spirit Array Master was a very rare profession. This profession was originally one of the 3 major cultivation professions. It was as famous as the refiner and the alchemist. However, it was now replaced by the Spirit Array Master. The main reason was that spirit arrays were a little useless. After entering the Great Cultivation Era, cultivators no longer lived in seclusion on a certain planet. Spirit arrays were no longer as important as they were in ancient times. No matter how mysterious a spirit array was, it couldn't be moved. In ancient times, cultivators liked to live near mountains and rivers. They carved out cave residences in auspicious places and stayed there for decades or even centuries. During that time, spirit arrays were almost a necessity. They could prevent mortals from entering by mistake or defend against enemies. They could even trap spirit beasts and make them surrender. Nowadays, who still carved out cave residences? Unless you lived in seclusion deep in the mountains, no cultivator would live in a cave residence. In the prosperous metropolis of cultivators, living at the pinnacle of the mortal world allowed them to enjoy supreme power and the most abundant resources. The era of bitter cultivation was long gone. With the development of cultivation technology, the profession of Spirit Array Master began to decline. In addition, the practice of spirit array masters was extremely dull and tedious. That was fine, but if one wanted to create a useful spirit array, it would take at least 20 to 30 years. Nowadays, spirit array masters were developing small spirit arrays. They pursued the fastest way to set up spirit arrays to defend or attack. Old Devil Zhang was like this. However, strictly speaking, he was a refiner. He only knew a little about spirit array masters. However, even though this profession had declined, no one dared to look down on spirit arrays. If a truly powerful high-level spirit array was broken in, even Yuanian cultivators would not be able to escape death. The constantly changing mark on this map is actually the location of the center of the spirit array. Once you enter the center of the array, you will be transported into the ancient tomb. Although it's a map, it's actually the key to enter the ancient tomb. When Wan explained in detail, when Wan no longer had any wariness towards Li Daochong. After interacting with him for a while, she already had a basic understanding of this terrifyingly strong young man's personality. As long as he treated you as a friend, he would definitely not have any crooked thoughts towards you. Even if you had the best treasures on you, he would not have the slightest interest. With Li Daochong's strength, when Wan was not even comparable to a chicken in front of him, he could casually pinch her to death. However, when Wan got along with Li Daochong, she did not feel any sense of oppression or threat from him. They were no different from ordinary friends. Li Daochong did not have the attitude of being superior to others just because he was a cultivator. "Oh, so it's like this," Li Daochong said with a face full of knowledge. As soon as his voice fell, Li Daochong's expression froze. He suddenly grabbed Wen Wan and jumped into the dense bushes more than 10 meters away. Wen Wan jumped in fright. Her pretty face was stunned. She did not know what was going on. She subconsciously opened her mouth and called out. However, before she could make a sound, Li Daochong's hand had already tightly covered her mouth. Then, he sent a telepathic sound transmission to her ear. "Don't make a sound. Cultivator is coming this way." Li Daochong vigilantly looked at the place where they were just standing. Whoosh! A white light rushed through the forest. A beautiful woman in white landed on the spot where Wen Wan had been standing. She glanced around, but she didn't find anything. She frowned and murmured, "Strange, could it be that I'm imagining things? I clearly felt that there was someone here just now." The woman in white was one of the 3 masters who appeared in Shuangyuan town more than 10 days ago. She was the only female Jin Dan cultivator on Red Sun Planet, Bai Yi. After staying for more than 10 seconds, Bai Yi did not find anything. Then, her figure flashed and flew away. Jin Dan cultivators could fly without relying on magical weapons. Wen Wan did not discover anything until the woman in white appeared in front of her. At the same time, she felt an unprecedented pressure. Her delicate body could not help but tremble. In fact, she could not sense any aura from the woman in white at all. However, she was scared half to death. Li Daochong's forehead oozed a trace of cold sweat. This was the strongest cultivator he had seen so far besides his father. Li Daochong let out a long sigh of relief. He had been too careless. He had only focused on restraining his aura, but he had forgotten that Wen Wan did not have such a strong psychokinesis like him. Her aura was released without restraint. Li Daochong did not expect that such a powerful cultivator would appear. "Thank you." Wen Wan buried her head in Li Daochong's arms and shyly thanked him. The latter's faint masculine scent made her heart beat faster. However, Wen Wan knew that Li Daochong's talent was monstrous. They were not in the same world. She should not have any improper thoughts. After thinking about it, Wen Wan took a deep breath and smiled freely. She shook off the love born from worship and reverence. She used her hands to break free from Li Daochong's arms. However, the arms around her did not loosen. Instead, a strong force came and hugged Wen Wan even tighter. Then, a sharp telepathic voice sounded. "Don't move." The tone carried a bit of reprimand. Wenwan did not know what was going on. For a moment, her imagination ran wild. Is he also interested in me? Otherwise, why is he hugging me? Will he like me? A series of blissful questions flashed through Wenwan's mind. Li Daochong was interested in her. She would not hesitate to throw herself into his arms and become a cultivator's partner. The benefits in the future were self-evident. Li Daochong was so young and powerful. Most importantly, he was clean and handsome and had a good personality. He was simply unique. Just as when Wan's imagination was running wild, and she was even thinking about whether or not to confess. Swoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air suddenly sounded. The white figure was like lightning and arrived in an instant. The terrifying woman in white had returned. Wan was suddenly stunned. She knew that she had misunderstood. Li Daochong was hugging her at this time because he knew that the woman in white would return. When Wan wanted to slap herself, she actually wanted to confess. She really wanted to say it. That would be awkward. Chapter 278. Bai returned. She didn't think that the weak aura she had sensed earlier had disappeared into thin air because she was too sensitive. As a Jin Dan cultivator, Bai had absolute confidence in her telekinesis perception. She returned with a sudden attack, but she still missed. Bai's eyes revealed a strange expression. She scanned the surroundings but still found nothing. Strange, could it be that I was really hallucinating? As soon as she finished muttering to herself, Bai shot a talisman in her hand towards a certain direction. Boom! A bush was blown up into the sky, and a 5-meter-wide crater was formed. A towering tree was broken into several sections. The edge of the explosion was less than 3 meters away from where Li Daochong and Wenwan were hiding. If they were a little closer, they would be exposed to the air. The talisman shot by the white-clothed woman was at least a 6th-level talisman. Its power was enough to kill Wenwan several times. Bai waited until the surroundings calmed down before she put away her suspicions and flew into the sky. Wenwan was so scared that her face turned pale. She couldn't sense the aura of the white-clothed woman, but her intuition told her that this woman was far beyond her imagination. When she saw that the white-clothed woman could fly into the sky without using a magic weapon, Wenwan was terrified. A Jin Dan cultivator? A few minutes later, Li Daochong's powerful telekinesis confirmed that the white-clothed woman had left. Only then did he walk out of the bush. However, Li Daochong was still worried. He didn't say anything. After running for more than 10 kilometers with Wenwan, they found a place with a forest behind them and stopped. Mr. Li, what's that woman's cultivation level? Wenwan asked, still in shock. Jin Dan cultivator. Li Daochong's palms were still sweating. The pressure from the white-clothed woman was really terrifying. Li Daochong had never felt that kind of pressure from his father. Of course, that was because Li Tianyang had deliberately restrained himself. Otherwise, if an ordinary person were to withstand the pressure released by a Jin Dan cultivator without any precaution, it would be enough to kill them. Jin Dan cultivators have already appeared? Mr. Li, should we give up on going to the ancient tomb? Wenwan wanted to back out. Not to mention a Jin Dan cultivator. A Foundation establishment cultivator was already an immortal-like existence to Wenwan. It was simply not something a cultivator like her could contend against. Let's play it by ear. Since we're already here, it would be a pity to just leave like this. We'll just have to be careful. If the situation doesn't seem right, we'll retreat, Li Daochong said after some thought. Although the undying soul coffin was a good treasure, it was nothing compared to his life. Li Daochong's goal was not the undying soul coffin, but Dark Ghost. Compared to human cultivators, Dark Ghost was the one who wanted the undying soul coffin more. Li Daochong guessed that although he had inadvertently ruined the Hades plans and prevented the spatial rift from opening, the Hades would not let him off so easily. There were probably still dark ghosts hidden on planet Crimson Sun, or perhaps the Hades could use some other method to teleport a few powerful dark ghosts. Li Daochong had read in some ancient texts that the Hades had many methods to teleport dark ghosts to the human domain. However, these methods had restrictions on the level of dark ghost. The highest level they could teleport was the malicious ghost level. The death chi of dark ghosts above the malicious ghost level was too strong for teleportation. Forceful teleportation would cause the dark ghost's dead soul to dissipate. The stronger the dark ghost, the greater the backlash. Thus, Li Daochong determined that if there were any dark ghosts on planet Crimson Sun, they would not be above the malicious ghost level. To the current Li Daochong, dark ghosts of this level were just a dish. He could fry them, boil them, or roast them. He could choose to eat them. Li Daochong's target had not been the undying soul coffin from the very beginning, but the dark ghosts that might appear. In Li Daochong's eyes, there was nothing more attractive than absorbing the power of dead souls. After all, this was the foundation of his cultivation. But Li Daochong had not expected that a Jin Dan cultivator would appear so soon. Oftentimes, human cultivators were far more frightening than dark ghosts. Even though the Federation's cultivation law clearly stated that cultivators were not to be harmed, in the wilderness, where there were no people, killing people for treasures and fighting over spirit herbs still happened from time to time. Li Daochong was now quite experienced in dealing with dark ghosts, but he was not so sure about dealing with cultivators. Among Li Daochong's previous opponents, the strongest was the Zhao family's grand elder, Zhao Puyi, who was at the early stage of foundation establishment. But Zhao Puyi's strength was honestly not worth mentioning. He had only reached foundation establishment at the age of 70 or 80. His foundation was solid, but his talent was trash. There was no need to talk about his strength, and he had broken through on a fourth-class cultivation planet. The purity of the spirit chi there was very poor. In addition, Zhao Puyi had basically relied on the accumulation of spirit herbs and spirit liquid. He had no foundation, no trump cards, and didn't even have a decent magic treasure. But for a small family like the Zhao family, it was very difficult to obtain real magic treasures and weapons. This was also why Li Daochong had been able to beat Zhao Puyi to a pulp when he was only at the late stage of qi condensation. If it had been any other foundation establishment cultivator, it would not have been so easy. Wan naturally didn't know Li Daochong's goal. In her opinion, she naturally thought that Li Daochong was after the undying soul coffin. But after hearing Li Daochong's words, Wan's hanging heart relaxed a little. Li Daochong's words revealed that he was not determined to obtain the undying soul coffin. He was most likely just curious. The Jin Dan cultivators were too much of a deterrent to Wan. That woman in white had already been deeply engraved in her mind. But Wan wasn't really scared out of her wits. She still caught some details. For example, that terrifying woman in white hadn't discovered her, and Li Daochong hiding right under her nose. Wan naturally wasn't naive enough to think that it was luck. She could only think that Li Daochong had done something to prevent that woman in white from sensing their auras. Even a Jin Dan cultivator could avoid it. Wan couldn't figure out what method Li Daochong had used. In short, this young man who had appeared out of nowhere constantly refreshed Wan's understanding of him. With Li Daochong around, Wan felt much more at ease. If it had been anyone else, Wan would have already run away. Who cared about the undying soul coffin? Her life was more important. Wan really wanted to do something for Li Daochong. She was determined to be his guide. For the rest of the journey, to prevent being discovered, the two of them advanced on foot. They were getting closer and closer to the mark on the map. About an hour later, Wan and Li Daochong appeared in a fog-shrouded valley deep in the mountains. A faint mist enveloped the entire valley and the mountains on all sides. Going deep into it made one feel like they were in a fairyland. However, a strange expression appeared on Wan's face. "Mr. Li, it's so strange. The last time I was here, there wasn't this mist. Li Daochong spread out his telekinesis to explore, but he didn't discover anything special. This mist was no different from ordinary mist, and it wasn't ghost mist either. Just as Li Daochong withdrew his telekinesis, he sensed an extremely obscure aura. It was the aura of death. Does the mist affect the mark? Li Daochong asked casually. I don't think so. Wenwan wasn't very sure. Let's go in and take a look. Li Daochong's telekinesis locked onto the aura of death. Wenwan nodded and stepped forward in a specific direction. They didn't walk in a straight line after making many turns. It seemed that they had to follow a specific route. Wenwan was familiar with the route and walked very quickly. Li Daochong followed behind her. The aura of death became more and more intense as they went deeper. After walking for a long time, they still didn't see the end. How far is it? Li Daochong vaguely felt that something was wrong, so he asked. Mr. Li, I'm sorry. I don't know. The last time I was here, I only walked for a while. But this time, the mark on the map changed very quickly. One moment it was here, the next it was there. I don't know what's going on. Wenwan told him the truth. Something strange. Li Daochong glanced ahead and said, What? Wenwan didn't understand and asked back. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud noise in the distance. The shock wave came instantly, and the mist around them was instantly shaken and dispersed. In the distant sky, a few figures were floating in the air. One of them was the woman in white that Li Daochong and Wenwan had met earlier. On the mountain top on the east side of the valley, black clouds were rolling, and a few black and red phantoms were shuttling back and forth. It was the aura of death that Li Daochong had sensed, but now it was no longer hidden. It was completely unleashed. The aura of death was close to the level of a soul catcher. They were the most powerful of the malicious ghosts, the red shadow malicious ghost and the resentful bones. In addition to the air, Li Daochong sensed at least 10 powerful auras around him. There were cultivators in the Qi gathering stage and foundation establishment stage. Walking around the valley, this hidden place had been discovered long ago. The movements of the various forces of the Crimson Sun planet were much faster than Li Daochong had imagined. It was obvious that the information provided by the grave robbers was enough for them to find this place. Little brats down there, let me give you a piece of advice. This is not a place where you can stay. If you don't want to die, hurry up and scram. If you don't blame me for not warning you later. A burly old man floated in the air and looked down at the valley below. His voice exploded in everyone's ears and went straight to the depths of their consciousness. Instantly their minds buzzed. Wenwan felt dizzy and almost fainted. Just as she was about to lose her balance, a large hand grabbed her back and supported her. A stream of spirit qi entered her body from behind, and the dizziness disappeared instantly. Wenwan looked at Li Daochong gratefully. Thank you, Mr. Li. Li Daochong nodded and handed Wenwan 10 spirit talismans. He said, Take these spirit talismans and leave first. Wenwan reached out and took the spirit talismans. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. The 10 spirit talismans that Li Daochong handed to her were all level 7 spirit talismans. These 10 spirit talismans were worth at least 100 million Federation dollars. Li Daochong actually gave them to her so casually. This, Mr. Li. Wenwan was a little hesitant to accept them. Take them. They will ensure that you have no worries on your return journey. It's too dangerous here, Li Daochong said calmly. His tone was firm and unquestionable. Wenwan did not want to leave, but she knew that this was not a place where a cultivator of her level could stay. All right, Mr. Li. Be careful then, Wenwan reminded him instinctively. Chapter 279. At this moment there were 5 figures in the sky. 3 of them were the 3 experts of planet Crimson Sun, Lu Xingzhan, Bai Yi, and Old Gun. The other 2 were both in the late stage of foundation establishment. They were both rogue cultivators. Many of the people scattered around the valley were surprised that the ancestors of the 4 major clans of Planet Crimson Sun had not appeared. There was news that the 4 major clans of Planet Crimson Sun had suffered a setback a week ago. Their economy was severely damaged, and the Kangwoo index of Planet Kangwoo's 4th ring exchange had plummeted by 10 points. The important figures of the 4 major clans had all gone to Planet Kangwoo to sell their stocks and had already met with a few important figures. Therefore, they were not on Planet Crimson Sunday. The news of the undying soul coffin had only spread to a small area. Out of selfishness, the 3 experts only told their superiors the results of their investigation and did not mention the undying soul coffin. The military was also kept in the dark. After all, Planet Crimson Sun was only a 4th-class cultivation planet. In the eyes of the Federation government and the cultivation army, it was not a cultivation planet that deserved too much attention. The highest-ranking officer of the local cultivation army was only a battalion commander. The local cultivation army only had a few hundred people. Planet Crimson Sun was a battalion-level cultivation planet. The highest-ranking officer was only in the middle stage of foundation establishment. Therefore, the 3 experts were the ones who had the final say on Planet Crimson Sunday. They were not part of the regular cultivation army. Simply put, they were like patrolmen. Their direct superior was the Federation government. There were some differences between them and the cultivation army. Being a patrolman was much freer than being a basic officer in the cultivation army. There were also more benefits. However, the downside was that it was difficult to be promoted. The military would not give you any benefit. Therefore, in order to obtain more cultivation resources, the patrolman on each cultivation planet would delay the reporting of any movements on the cultivation planet. If there were any spirit herbs or spirit treasures, they would immediately enter their storage pouches. It was impossible to hand them over. Of course, the Federation government knew about this. However, they could only close their eyes. Most of the time, they would not ask about it. If the management was too strict, no one would be willing to be a patrolman. The resources and salary given by the government every month were not enough to support the normal cultivation of a Jean Dan cultivator. It wasn't easy being a patroller. If something happened to the cultivation planet, especially if the citizens were attacked by the dark ghosts, the responsibility would fall on the patroller. Not only would they be dismissed, but they would also be sent to court to be judged for dereliction of duty. Then, they would be thrown into a suicide squad at the border with the excuse of atoning for their crimes with meritorious service for 5 years. If they survived, their crimes would be nullified, and they would regain their freedom. They would not be allowed to hold any government positions. If they died in battle, their crimes would be nullified, and they would have a monument erected as a martyr. Their descendants would receive a generous pension. The position of patrol guard was usually taken up by those loose cultivators with decent talent. Without the support of a clan, they had to struggle their way to the Jean Dan stage. If he wanted to cultivate further, the best way was to become a patroller. While he had the backing of a mountain, he would also obtain the jurisdiction of a cultivation planet. In this way, all the resources on this cultivation planet would be handled by the patrolman first. Planet Crimson Sun was one of the top 4th-class cultivation planets, so there were 3 patrolmen. Old Gun was the main one, while Lu Xingzhan and Bai Yi were his assistants. However, there wasn't much meaning to it. The 3 of them were grasshoppers on the same boat. Anything good on Planet Crimson Sun would be divided among the 3 of them, and Old Gun would take a bit more. Of course, the responsibility was equally divided. If something happened on Planet Crimson Sun, none of the 3 would be able to escape. Old Gun's roar caused many cultivators in the valley to cover their ears. However, only a few actually left. Most of them were just putting on an act. In reality, they were just going around in a roundabout way to hide and act according to the circumstances. The people who could come here were not only strong, but they were all desperados and had a powerful force supporting them. As the saying goes, wealth comes from danger. No one wanted to return empty-handed. Even if there were 3 Jean Dan cultivators, they still had to give it their all. 4 cultivators like them, it was already good enough to encounter a treasure like the Undying Soul coffin once in their lifetime. The only ones who really left were probably Wenwan and a few others. Carrying the 10 7th-level talismans that Li Daochong gave her, Wenwan walked very steadily. With these 10 7th-level talismans, no one below the late stage of the Qi-gathering realm should provoke her. Otherwise, only death awaited them. Black clouds continued to fill the mountaintop. The 3 patrolmen attacked the black clouds at the same time, but they were all blocked. After a few minutes, the entire valley was shrouded in black clouds for tens of kilometers. In an instant, the valley was completely dark. The visibility was no more than 5 meters. If one didn't have a strong telekinesis, they would be no different from a blind person. Dark ghosts constantly appeared in the black clouds. Before the battle in the sky even began, screams could be heard from below. Hundreds of dark ghosts were hidden in the black clouds. As the black clouds spread, they gradually revealed their true forms. All kinds of dark ghosts wreaked havoc in the valley. After Wenwan left, Li Daochong stood under a large tree, quietly waiting for the dark ghosts to come. As expected, a bear-shaped ghost quickly charged at Li Daochong. The bear-shaped ghost was determined to get this delicious meal. The bear-shaped ghost opened its mouth and pounced at Li Daochong. It wanted to bite off a large chunk of this young man's human soul. Li Daochong didn't move. He just looked indifferently at the charging bear-shaped ghost, allowing it to bite at his head. Clang! The bear-shaped ghost bit down. The ghost body flashed with lightning. Pung! The ghost body instantly collapsed. Beat! Bear-shaped ghost killed. Soul power gained. A wisp of black mist was absorbed into Li Daochong's body. A notification sounded. Li Daochong faintly smiled. This was just the appetizer before the feast began. But the great ghost-level dark ghosts were only enough to fill the gaps between Li Daochong's teeth. His goal was the complete red ghosts and resentful bones in the black clouds. Li Daochong continued to walk up the mountain. Occasionally, dark ghosts would rush out of the black clouds and pounce at him. These dark ghosts would never have dreamed that the food in their eyes would devour them. Li Daochong walked up, a faint smile on his face. This sort of warmth was not something that could be encountered every day. Come, let the dark ghosts come even fiercer. The sounds of fighting rose and fell in the valley. The cultivators and cultivators hidden in the corners of the forest were attacked by the dark ghosts, just like Li Daochong. But they weren't as relaxed as Li Daochong. The great ghost-level dark ghosts were enough to make a Qi condensation cultivator suffer. A top-level great ghost below the middle stage of the Qi condensation would basically be finished off here. Of course, the cultivators who could come here were not weak. The weakest were at the late stage of the Qi condensation and had all sorts of trump cards. Thus, the majority of the cultivators were able to endure the first wave of dark ghosts. But the dark ghosts that appeared at the beginning were just cannon fodder. The truly powerful dark ghosts were observing from the depths of the black clouds. The weaker cultivator could be seen at a glance after the first wave of attack. When the evil ghosts appeared, they no longer attacked aimlessly, but selectively. They would first attack the weak, and then gather together to attack the strong. They were bound to instantly kill each opponent. They would use the shortest amount of time to eat the most delicious meal possible. The second wave of attacks quickly began. The sounds of fighting in the valley dwindled, replaced by screams. With each scream, one could sense the despair and fear of the person shouting. Li Daochong maintained a steady pace as he walked up the mountain shrouded in black clouds. Before the black clouds had even spread, Li Daochong had locked onto a cave in the cliff. When Wan's map had last changed there, Li Daochong walked to the foot of the mountain. There was only one path leading up, so flying was impossible. The black clouds released by the dark ghosts had a blocking effect on spirit chi. At the same time, the black clouds were covered in a barrier of dark fire. Even if one's cultivation was high enough to forcibly fly, the moment they touched the dark fire, even if they didn't die, they would lose half their life. Even the current Li Daochong did not dare to touch true dark fire. It was a death fire that could directly burn the soul. Li Daochong had no choice but to take this path, but quite a few people had gathered here. It seemed that this group had also discovered the cave halfway up the mountain. The 3 Jin Dan cultivators were currently being held down by the red shadow ghosts and wraith bones. Before victory was decided, this was the only chance for everyone in the valley. Once victory was decided, no matter which side won, they would no longer have the chance to lay their hands on the undying soul coffin. Although visibility was low, Li Daochong, who had powerful telekinesis, could see his surroundings like the back of his hand. In a small clearing at the foot of the mountain, several cultivators had gathered together and had just killed 2 small malicious ghosts. They understood the principle of strength in numbers. This group of cultivators consisted of 3 men and 3 women. The weakest was in the late stage of chi gathering, while the strongest was in the early stage of foundation establishment. As long as they did not encounter any high-level malicious ghosts or more than 10 low-level malicious ghosts, they would be safe. The leader was a feminine-looking man whose cultivation was in the early stage of foundation establishment. If the upper echelons of Scarlet Sun City were present, they would definitely be surprised to see this feminine-looking man. This time, the Ouyang clan of the 4 great clans of Scarlet Sun Planet suffered the most from the economic crisis. Not only did this chief steward of the Ouyang clan's finances not head to Kangwu Planet, he appeared here instead. The feminine-looking man was the 2nd elder in charge of the Ouyang clan's finances, Ouyang Xian. He had reached foundation establishment at the age of 30. Now that he was in his 70s, he still retained his appearance from when he was in his 30s. However, his cultivation had remained stagnant at the early stage of foundation establishment. As for the other 5, Ouyang Xian had helped them defeat the dark ghosts. After some persuasion, they decided to go up the mountain and enter the cave together. At this moment, Li Daochong happened to pass by. For a young man to pass through the black fog unscathed, it was naturally impossible to say that it was just luck. Li Daochong did not want to travel together, so he turned a blind eye to the 6 people gathered together. However, just as he got closer, he heard a familiar voice. Li Daochong. As soon as the voice fell, a pure and innocent girl in gorgeous Taoist robes approached Li Daochong and stopped in front of him. Li Daochong was slightly stunned. He did not expect to meet her here. Her aura was very different from before. If Li Daochong did not see her in person and only used his telekinesis to sense her, he would definitely not associate her with anyone he knew. Chapter 280. Meeting his first love Li Xuemei here, it was impossible for Li Daochong's heart not to be moved. But after a few seconds, Li Daochong's state of mind completely calmed down. The past, to Li Daochong, was just a scene in his mind, barely a memory. But Li Daochong could not feel the emotions of the past. He did not have the slightest bit of feelings for Li Xuemei. Li Xuemei hesitated for a moment, then said, I came with Renfei to find the underworld treasure. Li Daochong glanced behind Li Xuemei, only to see a handsome young man come forward, smiling at him. Li Daochong, long time no see. Yi Renfei was also a student of Xiansong University, so he naturally knew Li Daochong, but at that time Li Daochong was nothing other than the foolish young master of the Li family. At that time, Li Daochong could not be compared to anyone. And long time no see. Li Daochong indifferently replied, regarding this guy who stole his ex-girlfriend, perhaps his predecessor hated Li Daochong to the bone, but the current Li Daochong did not feel anything. A chance encounter is better than an invitation. You must be here for the netherworld treasure as well. Looking at the current situation, one person's strength is limited. Why don't we work together? Yi Renfei extended an invitation, but he did not hide the ridicule in his eyes. Although Li Daochong's changes in the past year were astonishing, even surpassing Yi Renfei at some point, in Yi Renfei's eyes, Li Daochong was still an ant that could be stepped on at any time. After the Blue Bay Star's big test, Yi Renfei returned to the clan. His body was erased by the restriction, and during this time, he worked for the clan while cultivating. After half a year, Yi Renfei had already broken through to the peak of qi gathering, and was only a step away from foundation establishment. In addition, the Yi clan's bloodline contained the blood of an ancient mythical beast. His strength was far above that of a normal peak of qi gathering cultivator. Among the 6 of them, Yi Renfei's strength was practically the strongest. Yangxian was only slightly stronger than him. At this time, Yi Renfei probed Li Daochong's cultivation level. It was only at the middle stage of the qi-gathering realm. It was rumored that this kid had passed the direct test. In his opinion, it was just a blind cat catching a dead mouse, or perhaps Li Tianyang had given him something good. As for Li Daochong himself, he would forever be an ant that could not be brought to the table. However, this ant had indeed been in the limelight for a period of time, which made Yi Renfei very unhappy. Especially when Li Xuemei revealed that kind of surprised expression, the jealousy in his heart would spread crazily. In fact, Li Xuemei was just an accessory to Yi Renfei. She was not worthy of him. Other than the Li family's efforts to please Li Tianxing and the friendship between Li Tianxing and the Yi family, Li Xuemei was engaged to Li Xuemei. The most important reason that made Yi Renfei nod his head was actually Li Daochong's performance in the past few days. Yi Renfei was a very possessive person. He would never allow himself to lose to a fool. Li Xuemei was his. Even if he did not want to throw her away, other people could pick her up, but not Li Daochong. The fact that Li Daochong had gotten first place in the Blue Bay Star beta test had already made Yi Renfei very unhappy. A few days ago, he met this kid in the underground city of Red Sun Star's underground boxing arena. Li Daochong had actually defeated everyone to obtain the ownership of the northern part of Red Sun Star. If it was not for the fact that he did not want to expose his identity, Yi Renfei would have definitely stepped on Li Daochong. Unfortunately, Yi Renfei was investigating the underworld treasure at that time, so he could only endure it. Now that he met Li Daochong here, Yi Renfei naturally would not miss the opportunity to completely step on him. Li Daochong originally wanted to refuse, but after glancing at the people behind Yi Renfei, he changed his mind. Everyone who came here was here for the undying soul coffin. In fact, they were all competing against each other. If they did not go together, they would be enemies. Li Daochong understood that if he refused to join them, he would be their competitor. There was nothing strange about falling out in a place like this. If Li Daochong said that he was not here for the undying soul coffin, probably no one would believe him. It was not a bad idea to follow this group and pick up scrap. It would save him a lot of trouble. Of course, Li Daochong could also see that Yi Renfei was up to no good. However, now that he had reached the foundation establishment stage, Song Ink and Level 8 and Level 9 talismans, he was not afraid of Yi Renfei's tricks. Li Daochong paused and said, "That's fine too." Yi Renfei smiled and said, "Welcome to join us. Let's go treasure hunting together." As he spoke, Yi Renfei deliberately grabbed Li Xuemei's hand in front of Li Daochong and said softly, "Xuemei, follow me closely. I don't know what kind of dark ghost we will meet on the mountain. Don't fall for it. I will protect you well." Li Xuemei nodded, her eyes wandering. Yi Renfei had not shown any concern for Li Xuemei these days. If she was unhappy, he would beat her, mock her, and curse her. How could Li Xuemei not know that he was putting on an act for Li Daochong to see? It was nothing more than to make Li Daochong unhappy and declare her ownership. Back then, when Li Daochong found out that she was with someone else, he showed a heart-wrenching pain. This was something that everyone in Profound Firmament University knew. Li Shumei knew that Li Daochong was sincere to her. Perhaps if she could choose again, she would choose Li Daochong. Even if he did not undergo such a drastic change, and was still the same silly boy, Li Shumei would not care. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. She had already chosen the path, and there was no turning back. Li Shumei did not want to hurt Li Daochong again. Therefore, when Yi Renfei showed an intimate attitude to her in front of Li Daochong, she was very worried about Li Daochong's mood. She was worried that Li Daochong would rekindle his old feelings for her and do something stupid. Therefore, when Yi Renfei grabbed Li Shumei's hand, she refused and even subconsciously shrank back. However, Yi Renfei used a lot of strength and Li Shumei did not pull away. She could only let him hold her hand. Yi Renfei obviously felt Li Shumei's rejection. This action made him very angry in his heart, but he did not show it on his face. It was not that Li Daochong could not see the complicated emotions in these two people's hearts. However, other than feeling that it was a little funny, he did not have any other emotions. "It's getting late. Let's go." An androgynous voice sounded. It was Ouyang Xian. Ouyang Xian only had one purpose for appearing here, and that was to bring as many cultivators as possible into the cave. Ouyang family ancestor Ouyang? Ouyang? Flattering Ouyang? Looking at Ouyang? Ouyang? Huang Lanting Ouyang? Which pretty Huai? No one would have thought that the Ouyang family had already submitted to the Rakshasa state of Hades 100 years ago and became a spy hidden by the Rakshasa state in the Shenghua Federation. This time, many of the actions on planet Crimson Sun were done by the Rakshasa state of Hades. Their goal was not the undying soul coffin. If it was just the undying soul coffin, there was no need for so many actions. They could have just sent an army to snatch it. The Rakshasa state was after the remnant soul of the ancient Rakshasa state's princess, who was lying in the undying soul coffin. Rumor had it that the Almighty on planet Crimson Sun was just a Yin puppet. Back then, several Yuanian cultivators attacked the Rakshasa princess together. Both sides suffered heavy losses. The princess's dead soul was almost disintegrated. Only a trace of her remnant soul sneaked into the body of one of the Yuanian cultivators. She was prepared to return to the Hades and slowly recover her soul. Unexpectedly, the Yuanian cultivator was wearing a teleportation robe and directly teleported to the depths of the human territory, which was the current planet Crimson Sunday. The Rakshasa princess could not return. Due to her serious injuries, she could only live in seclusion in the mountains to recover. However, after 100 years, she did not get better. Instead, her injuries worsened and she was in danger of dying at any time. The Rakshasa princess had no choice but to take out all the items she had on her and disguised herself as a human cultivator to travel the human territory for dozens of years. Finally, she found the materials she needed and refined an undying soul coffin. This undying soul coffin was naturally incomparable to the one produced by the Hades. However, it was enough to keep the Rakshasa princess's soul alive for thousands of years. When the Rakshasa princess was lying in the undying soul coffin, she condensed a distress signal to the Hades to let the Hades know that she was still alive and send people to save her. However, the transmission speed of the distress signal was extremely slow. It would take at least a few hundred years to pass through the human territory to the Hades and enter the Hades. The Rakshasa princess could not wait for such a long time. She could only fall into a deep sleep and pray that the Hades would send people to wake her up one day. However, this distress signal was only received by a soul catcher in the Hades after thousands of years. That was 5 years ago in the Federation calendar. The group of 7 walked along the mountain path to the mountainside. They moved very quickly. With such a group, no ordinary nether ghosts could stop them unless the red ghosts and resentful bones at the top of the mountain came down. However, the closer they got to the cave abode, the more nether ghosts there were. The frequency of them appearing also increased. Almost every moment, there would be a dozen nether ghosts surrounding them and attacking. There seemed to be countless nether ghosts in the black fog. Li Daochong followed at the back of the group and absorbed the power of a dozen dead souls without anyone noticing. Along the way, Yi Renfei spared no effort to show off his strength. Compared to the feminine man, he was not much weaker. Li Shumei took good care of Li Daochong, occasionally coming over to help. When they met Li Daochong, she checked his cultivation and found that he was in the middle stage of the qi gathering. He was not even as good as Li Shumei. Although she was often beaten and scolded by Yi Renfei, there were still benefits. Cultivation resources were never cut off and they were all good. Li Shumei's talent was not high, but half a year ago, she took a spirit-cultivating pill given by the Yi family and was allowed to soak in a spirit spring in the Yi family's training hall. Now, she was in the late stage of the qi gathering and was the strongest person in the Li family's younger generation. Foundation establishment was in sight. Li Daochong's previous performance might have been amazing on a Grade 4 cultivation planet, but when Li Shumei followed Yi Renfei to a Grade 3 cultivation planet and stayed there for a period of time, she finally understood what it meant to say that there was always someone better than you. In addition, her cultivation had reached the late stage of the qi gathering, so her horizons were much higher than before. Li Daochong's performance was nothing. Especially a month ago, when Li Shumei saw Yi Renfei use his bloodline power and erupt with the power of the Xuanwu, she understood what a monster was. Yi Renfei was in the peak stage of the qi gathering and could instantly kill an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Therefore, Li Daochong's performance really didn't amount to much now. Daochong, it's too dangerous for you here. Why don't you go back? Li Shumei said sincerely. Thank you for the reminder, I'll think about it. Li Daochong kept eating, so how could he go back? He replied indifferently. When Yi Renfei saw Li Shumei take the initiative to approach Li Daochong and the two of them were still talking, he suddenly became angry. He pushed his hands and a strong force pushed several evil spirits around him towards Li Daochong. Chapter 281. How could Yi Renfei's tricks escape Li Daochong's eyes? He had barely made a move, so he had a lot of free time. Everyone's movements were within Li Daochong's grasp. Apart from Yi Renfei, Li Daochong had to be on guard against the feminine man. The aura he emitted was very strange. It wasn't death qi, but it wasn't spirit qi either. Li Daochong had encountered a similar aura once before, but it had been very weak at that time, so Li Daochong hadn't paid it much attention. The feminine man's strange aura was very strong. A few months ago, Li Daochong had encountered Ouyang Ju in the black market boxing arena. He also had this aura. At that moment, 4 malicious ghosts were flying toward Li Daochong under Yi Renfei's control. Li Shumei didn't know that it was Yi Renfei's doing. She only thought that the malicious ghosts had sensed that Li Daochong was the weakest among them, so they attacked together. Li Shumei didn't think too much about it. Her beautiful figure flashed in front of Li Daochong, blocking 2 of the malicious ghosts. This action surprised Li Daochong. He had wanted to make a move, but the spirit qi in his hand disappeared. The Tsang ink that should have been unsheathed was returned to his storage bag. Li Shumei only blocked 2 malicious ghosts, while the other 2 continued toward Li Daochong. A gray figure flashed in front of Li Daochong. It was the feminine man. He could understand why Li Shumei would help him block Li Daochong, but the appearance of the feminine man really made him a little confused. Yangxian had only made a move because she didn't want the human souls she had worked so hard to gather to be devoured by the dark ghost. Everyone was preparing for the undying soul coffin, so not a single one could be left out. After dealing with the 2 malicious ghosts, Yangxian turned to Li Daochong and asked, "Young man, are you all right?" "I'm fine, thanks." Li Daochong felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He simply thanked him. With Li Daocheng's strength, dealing with 2 low-level wraiths was her limit. If not for Li Daocheng's secret help, she would have been injured. When Yi Renfei saw that his scheme had failed, his face turned gloomy. He glanced at Ouyangxian and cursed in his heart. Damned transvestite, meddlesome. Along the way, they killed at least 200 nether ghosts before finally arriving at the cave abode halfway up the mountain. Li Daocheng took advantage of the situation and absorbed more than 30 nether ghost dead souls. It was pitch black inside. Ouyangxian extended her hand, and several blue balls of light floated up, flying into the cave. Pa pa pa. The 3 blue light balls flying at the front didn't go too far before they encountered some kind of invisible barrier and exploded. There is indeed a mechanism. Ouyangxian put on an act as she spoke. Then, she took out a copper figurine that was about a foot long and casually tossed it over. The copper man landed on the ground and instantly grew into a 3-meter-tall copper puppet. Sparks flickered on its body as it rushed into the cave. Gathering? 9 by 9? The copper puppets rampaged, breaking through the enchantment. Ouyangxian took the lead and rushed into the cave abode. The others were afraid that Ouyangxian would beat them to it, so they all followed. Only Li Daocheng was not in a hurry. The undying soul coffin was not his goal, so he naturally wasn't in a hurry. The cave abode was very deep, and the passages inside were complicated. After walking for a short distance, Ouyangxian stopped. "Brother Ouyang, why did you stop? Is there something strange ahead?" Qing Fengzi, who was following closely behind Ouyangxian, asked casually. Ouyangxian turned and smiled. "I haven't found anything yet." Qing Fengzi's eyes rolled. He naturally didn't believe Ouyangxian's words. He stopped not far behind Ouyangxian and didn't move forward. If there were no mechanisms or formations in this ancient tomb, it would be embarrassing to call it an ancient tomb. Qing Fengzi wasn't stupid. He wouldn't be cannon fodder at the front. Ouyangxian's back was facing Qing Fengzi. She muttered a few words silently, and a black light shot from her fingertip into the depths of the cave abode. At this time the others also followed. Li Daocheng was still walking at the back. After entering the cave abode, his telekinesis was restricted. He couldn't extend it out. At most, it could only extend 100 meters before it was blocked. After building his foundation, Li Daocheng's telekinesis strength naturally increased. Under normal circumstances, it could cover a radius of 10 kilometers without any problem. Condensing a line, it could extend over 30 kilometers. Its sensitivity was also several times greater than before. Any movement in the wind or grass could not escape Li Daocheng's detection. Li Daocheng's telekinesis strength was already comparable to a Jin Dan stage cultivator. However, even with Li Daocheng's telekinesis strength, after entering the cave abode, he was still blind. There was something strange about this cave abode. Li Daocheng had to be on guard. Everyone was curious why they suddenly stopped. Seeing that they were about to find the undying soul coffin, even if they were all cultivators, their hearts couldn't calm down. The undying soul coffin was a rare underworld treasure. Its price would be astronomical. It was enough to support a cultivator's extravagant cultivation until the Jin Dan stage. Without enough talent, relying on top-grade cultivation resources and elixirs was the only way to become a cultivator. Senior Ouyang, there's not much time. Once the battle outside ends, we'll have nothing to do. Another cultivator had an anxious expression. Ouyangxian's expression changed slightly. She continued, "Caution is the parent of safety. It's never a bad thing to explore." "Alright, I didn't find anything strange. Let's go." After speaking, Ouyangxian revealed a sinister smile with her back to the crowd. Then, she flew out. The others immediately followed. Li Daocheng stood in place. Yi Renfei had been paying attention to his predecessor's movements. Seeing that he didn't move, he laughed contemptuously. What, Li Daochong, don't you plan to follow and take a look? Seeing a treasure like the undying soul coffin once in your life is enough to brag for the rest of your life. You're not planning to give up, are you? Li Daochong shrugged. When it's time to give up, I'll give up. If you guys want to go, then go. I'm going back. With his telekinesis blocked, Li Daochong felt uneasy. The corner of his eyes had been twitching since just now, which wasn't a good sign. This wasn't the time to be a hero. Moreover, Li Daochong only wanted to absorb the dead souls. Whether or not he found the undying soul coffin wasn't important to him. Li Daochong, you're too cowardly. With me here, what are you afraid of? Don't worry, we're all classmates. If there's any danger, I won't leave you alone. Yi Renfei provoked. It's no trouble. You guys go. Don't lose me. Li Daochong didn't buy it. He curled his lips and turned to leave. You're leaving just like that? Aren't you worried about Xuemei's safety? Yi Renfei didn't want to let Li Daochong leave just like that. It wasn't easy to have a chance to completely kill Li Daochong. How could he miss it? If he killed him in such a place without anyone knowing, no one would know. There was another reason why Yi Renfei hadn't made his move yet. Before he killed Li Daochong, he wanted to let Li Xuemei see clearly what kind of person this guy was. First place in the beta testing, and the fact that he had dominated the black market's boxing ring, were all for naught. Li Daochong could never be compared to him, Yi Renfei. Not only did he want Li Daochong's life, but he also wanted to completely erase the glorious image in Li Xuemei's mind. Yi Renfei originally thought that his words would make Li Daochong stop. Who knew that Li Daochong didn't stop at all? Instead, he left even faster. Yi Renfei snorted coldly. Just as he was about to shed all pretense of cordiality and capture Li Daochong, a powerful aura of death suddenly came from the direction of the cave. Li Daochong, who was walking out, narrowed his eyes. This aura of death was even stronger than the vampire in Shuangyuan town. It was even stronger than the vengeful bone, which was the top dark ghost among the malicious ghosts. Ghost King. Li Daochong's face sank as if he was facing a great enemy. At the same time, his eyes shone with excitement. If he could absorb the Ghost King's dead soul and transform it, he should be able to enter the Middle Foundation establishment stage. Just as Li Daochong was about to make a move, two more auras of death surged out. One was a red shadow malicious ghost, and the other was a vengeful bone. Damn it! Li Daochong's fighting spirit instantly disappeared. He turned around and ran. How could Yi Renfei and Li Xuemei not feel such a powerful aura of death? Li Daochong turned around and ran a few steps. The two of them turned around and ran without thinking. Yi Renfei didn't care about Li Xuemei's life at all. He used his movement technique to run at full speed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Li Xuemei gritted her teeth and ran for her life. If Li Daochong ran at full speed, not to mention Li Xuemei, Yi Renfei could be 800 miles away from him. However, Li Daochong didn't do so. Li Xuemei was the love of his predecessor. Although that kid was dead, they shared the same fate. The current Li Daochong naturally had no feelings for Li Xuemei. However, he couldn't just leave her like this and watch her die. Li Daochong couldn't do it. Li Daochong had been following behind Li Xuemei. The latter naturally didn't know that Li Daochong was doing it on purpose. She only thought that Li Daochong was already running at full speed. Daochong, catch me. I'll take you away. Li Xuemei stretched out her hand as she ran. Don't worry about me. Just run. Li Daochong threw out these words. Hearing these words, Li Xuemei's eyes instantly became misty. Memories of the past instantly filled her mind. How she wished she could return to the past. Li Daochong naturally didn't know what Li Xuemei was thinking. He really didn't need Li Xuemei to hold him back. As Li Daochong ran, he felt a chill in his heart. The red shadow and vengeful bones had appeared. Could it be that the battle outside had already ended? The 3 Jin Dan cultivators were already dead? Li Daochong was shocked but also felt that something was wrong. Even the most powerful vengeful ghosts shouldn't be able to suppress the Jin Dan cultivators. How could they defeat the 3 Jin Dan cultivators so quickly? As Li Daochong was thinking, 3 powerful auras rushed into the immortal cave. Due to the obstruction of his telekinesis, Li Daochong couldn't sense the situation outside. It was only when the 3 Jin Dan cultivators entered the immortal cave that he sensed them. The doubts in Li Daochong's heart instantly dissipated. His hanging heart also relaxed. It was good that the 3 Jin Dan cultivators were still here. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be able to deal with 3 powerful vengeful ghosts. The immortal cave's passageways were intricate and complicated. Li Daochong and Li Xuemei didn't care about which direction they were running in. If there were bends, they would turn right. After a few minutes, they didn't know how far they had run. Suddenly, their eyes lit up. They had entered a vast cave. The ceiling of the cave was covered with a layer of dim light, illuminating the entire cave. In the middle of the cave, there was a huge wooden coffin lying on a circular stone platform. Chapter 282. Entering the cave, Li Daochong slightly released his telekinesis, and the range of his detection increased by quite a bit. The strange thing was that the 3 death auras behind him had disappeared. Did he go the wrong way? The auras of the 3 Jin Dan cultivators had also disappeared without a trace. Li Daochong felt that it was strange that there was another strange aura that was very similar to Ouyang Xian's aura hidden in the dark. This aura was much stronger than Ouyang Xian's. At this time, Yi Renfei also ran out from another cave. He looked a bit embarrassed, and his face was covered in dirt. Seeing Li Daochong and Li Xuemei standing side by side, Yi Renfei immediately burned with jealousy, and said coldly, "Xuemei, come here. Be careful." Li Xuemei reminded Li Daochong, and walked to Yi Renfei with a bit of bitterness. Li Daochong nodded. He did not go near the undying soul coffin, and instead walked towards another cave. "Didn't the 2 of you catch up?" Yi Renfei said to Li Xuemei with a serious face. "Renfei, don't be so paranoid, okay?" Li Xuemei pleaded with a hint of pleading. "Suspicious? Hee, Li Xuemei, you think too highly of yourself. Do I need to be suspicious of you? You're just a servant given to me by the Li family. You'll soon know that Li Daochong is still the same Li Daochong. I'll step on that brat in front of you," Yi Renfei said in a low voice. Li Xuemei's eyes widened. "Renfei, don't. Let him go. He didn't do anything to you. I beg you." Li Xuemei's words made Yi Renfei even angrier. He reached out and grabbed Li Xuemei's wrist, causing her to grimace in pain. "Li Xuemei, I know you still have feelings for that brat. You can't even protect yourself, but you're still pleading for him. This is really touching, but is it really good for you to be so unfaithful? You're with me, but you're thinking about someone else." Yi Renfei's face turned ferocious. "Renfei, I didn't. After following you, there is no one else in my heart. After all, Li Daochong is a member of the Li family. I grew up with him. Should I just watch him die?" Li Xuemei argued. "Li family? Humph, would the Li family acknowledge him? Besides, you're no longer a member of the Li family. You're a member of the Yi family now. Let me tell you, I'll kill that brat later," Yi Renfei said viciously. "No, Renfei, please let him go," Li Xuemei begged helplessly. "Li Xuemei, you really don't understand me. The more you speak like this, the more I want to kill him. I'll let you know that no matter how brilliant Li Daochong is in front of me, he's just an ant that I can crush at any time." Yi Renfei's expression of anger vanished, and he revealed a sinister smile. As the 2 spoke, they had already arrived in front of the stone platform. The undying soul coffin was wrapped in a layer of light yellow net. Around the stone platform, there were 9 round holes with a diameter of 1 meter and a depth of half a meter. When Ouyang Xian saw the 3 people who had lost track of him appear, his feminine face inadvertently revealed a light smile. Qing Fengzi and the other cultivators circled the light net a few times, trying to destroy it, but to no avail. "Brother Ouyang, do you have a way to remove the light net?" Chang Gong was afraid of destroying the undying soul coffin, so Qing Feng Zi couldn't think of a good idea. "Yes," Ouyang Xian said straightforwardly. "Really? How do we break it?" Qing Feng Zi's eyes lit up. "Use your human souls to draw the undying soul coffin, and the light net will disappear," Ouyang Xian said indifferently. Qing Feng Zi and the others didn't react for a moment, and then their expressions changed greatly. "Ouyang Xian, what do you mean?" A talisman appeared in Qing Feng Zi's hand, and he quickly pulled away from Ouyang Xian. "What do I mean? Isn't it obvious enough? Use your lives to sacrifice to the undying soul coffin, and you can open the light net. Do you understand now?" Ouyang Xian said with a smile. "Ouyang Xian, you." Qing Feng Zi's face was ashen. The other cultivators retreated one after another, looking at Ouyang Xian as if they were facing a great enemy. Yiren Fei didn't expect Ouyang Xian to suddenly turn hostile, and an 8 alchemy talisman appeared in his hand, ready to attack at any time. With the Ghost King behind and Ouyang Xian in front, Yiren Fei's scalp went numb, and he glanced at Li Daochong, who was standing at the other side of the cave, looking at them from afar. This kid was greedy for life, but he was right to be afraid. He could turn around and run at any time. "Ouyang Xian, aren't you overconfident in your own strength? None of us are your match, but if we all attack together, are you sure you can beat us? Don't forget, besides you, Senior Lu is also a Foundation establishment cultivator," a middle-aged woman said with a gloomy expression. The cultivator called Senior Lu was an old woman, and she always held a staff made of dead wood in her hand. That was her precious lifeblood, the Ice-Fire Staff, a low-grade heaven-rank magic treasure. "You can try," Ouyang Xian replied without fear. With that, Ouyang Xian flicked her finger, and a black light shot out, targeting Qing Feng Zi. Qing Feng Zi was shocked, and he quickly raised the sword in his hand. Bang! The black light hit the sword, and Qing Feng Zi retreated 3 steps. Before he could steady himself, Ouyang Xian's hand turned into a claw and suddenly retracted. Qing Feng Zi seemed to be caught by something and flew into the air, landing in a hole on the stone platform. As soon as he landed, a layer of black light enveloped him, and Qing Feng Zi's desperate charge was useless. Then, Qing Feng Zi's gaze turned sluggish, and he stood motionless in the hole with a wooden expression. His vitality quickly flowed from a black gully below the hole to the undying soul coffin. Ouyang Xian flicked her finger, and another black light shot towards the middle-aged woman. With Qing Feng Zi as an example, the middle-aged woman didn't dare to block and dodge to the side. However, after the black light missed, it actually returned. Just as it was about to hit the middle-aged woman, the old woman surnamed Lu waved her staff, and an ice blade shot out. Bang! The ice blade and the black light cancelled each other out. The middle-aged woman shouted in horror, everyone attacked together. With that, 2 talismans shot out. Ouyang Xian opened her palm, and a round shield appeared in front of her. Bang! Bang! 2 explosions sounded as the talismans exploded. The round shield only trembled for a moment before disappearing, but it blocked all the talisman attacks. The old woman surnamed Lu appeared behind Ouyang Xian, and her ice-fire staff heavily knocked on the ground. A flame-shaped icicle quickly spread on the ground, quickly rushing towards where Ouyang Xian was standing. Ouyang Xian didn't even look behind her. As if she had eyes, her figure flashed and disappeared. In the next moment, she appeared beside the middle-aged woman. She grabbed the middle-aged woman's head and jumped up with her, landing on the stone platform. The middle-aged woman was also thrown into the hole by Ouyang Xian. Like Qing Feng Zi, the middle-aged woman was wrapped in a black light, and her eyes became sluggish as her vitality quickly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, Ouyang Xian had dealt with 2 people. Even the old woman surnamed Lu couldn't stop her from capturing the middle-aged woman. Ouyang Xian put down the middle-aged woman, and immediately flicked her finger, shooting the black light at Li Xuemei. Li Xuemei clenched her teeth and dodged. When the black light reflected back, Yi Renfei finally made his move, and a long sword shaped like a turtle tail slashed out. The sword light was like lightning, colliding with the black light in the void and canceling it out. Ouyang Xian was surprised. Apparently, she had misjudged Yi Renfei's strength. She continued, "Yi brat, as a member of the Yi family, you shouldn't have come here. Instead of living a good life, you came here to suffer. Your Yi family can summon the wind and summon the rain on a third-class cultivation planet. This little thing is nothing to you. Unfortunately, you didn't think it through. Your bloodline is a good thing, so you can't waste it." As Ouyang Xian spoke, the old woman surnamed Lu smashed her staff at her, but she easily dodged. The old woman surnamed Lu was shocked. Ouyang Xian's cultivation was the same as hers, but her true strength was far above hers. The two were simply not on the same level. The old woman surnamed Lu didn't want to fight, so she turned into a brown light and rushed away. As for the undying soul coffin, she had long forgotten about it. "Old thing, do you think it's possible to get out after coming in?" Ouyang Xian said unhurriedly. The old woman surnamed Lu turned a deaf ear. She sped up and shot straight into a hole. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. The old woman surnamed Lu slammed into an invisible wall only a few meters away from the hole. The impact made her dizzy, and she flew back dozens of meters before stopping. At this time, Li Daochong, who was standing at the other end of the hole, was startled. He turned around and flicked his finger, shooting out a stream of qi. Dong! The qi shot out a meter or two before it was blocked. There was a restriction that Li Daochong hadn't noticed. He had never seen this kind of restriction before. It was invisible and couldn't be detected by telekinesis. If it weren't for the old woman, Li Daochong might have run into it. Seeing that she couldn't escape, the old woman surnamed Lu stood up and glanced at Yi Renfei, Li Xuemei, and Li Daochong. She said, "If you three want to live, then cooperate with me to kill that damned transvestite. If I die, none of you will be able to escape." As soon as the old woman's voice fell, her body suddenly shook. Her old eyes revealed a look of despair, as if she had seen the end of the world. 3 shadows, 1 red and 2 black, shot out from the hole. A huge amount of death qi instantly enveloped the entire cave. The Ghost King's body had taken on a semi-corporeal form. His face was pale and bloodless, his hair was disheveled, his arms were white and blue, and his claws were sharp. However, his lower body had no legs and was floating in the air. The red ghost was actually a woman wearing a red rag dress. Her face couldn't be seen as her hair always covered it. The resentful bone was just like its name. It was a skeleton with bits of flesh and blood on its bones. Dark red flames were burning in its eyes, and it held a long-handled axe in its hand. The vengeful bone was the only dark ghost among the dark ghosts that used dark artifacts. It was even stronger than the red ghost. Chapter 283. When the Ghost King appeared, the smile on Ouyang Xian's feminine face became even more brilliant. Just as old woman Lu's mental defenses were about to collapse, 3 more figures shot out from another cave. Lu Xingzhan, Bai Yi, and Old Gun, the 3 Jin Dan cultivators of Red Sun Planet, also appeared in the cave. Old woman Lu's heart, which had fallen to the bottom of the lake, once again floated up. Yi Renfei and Li Xuemei heaved a sigh of relief. Their saviors had finally arrived. As soon as the 3 Jin Dan cultivators entered the cave, the Ghost King attacked, clawing at Lu Xingzhan. The latter easily blocked the attack with a golden longsword in hand. The red ghost pounced at Bai Yi. 1 red and 1 white immediately tangled together. Old Gun's opponent was naturally the remaining resentful bones. The confrontation of strength was always thrilling. Weapons fiercely collided, constantly producing dull sounds. The entire cave slightly trembled from their battle. Yang Xian sinisterly smiled and immediately pounced at Li Xuemei. When old woman Lu saw the 3 Jin Dan cultivators arrive, her spirit shook. Her entire body's spiritual energy violently surged. No matter what, she could not allow Yang Xian to capture her. Every time she captured one, her combat power would be reduced, and her chances of escaping would be reduced. Old woman Lu intercepted in front of Li Xuemei. Yang Xian struck out with a palm. The 2 palms collided, and the former hurriedly retreated more than 10 steps. Yang Xian did not move. Instead, she grabbed at the somewhat dumbfounded Li Xuemei. Yi Renfei kicked out to help Li Xuemei. However, Yang Xian suddenly turned around and firmly grabbed Yi Renfei's ankle. Hee, kid, are you still holding back? This ability is not enough to deal with me. Hurry up and activate your bloodline power. Yang Xian laughed. Bah! Yi Renfei spat. Regardless of his foot being caught, he ruthlessly stabbed at Yang Xian with his sword. Yang Xian did not dodge. She still held Yi Renfei's ankle with one hand, while the other blocked the sword without any support. Clang! A crisp sound rang out. Yi Renfei's sword came down with all his strength. Yang Xian only used her arm to block it. There was not even a cut mark on her arm. What? Yi Renfei's eyes widened as he stared at Yang Xian's arm in disbelief. The turtle-tailed longsword in Yi Renfei's hand was a top-grade Earth-rank magic treasure. It could slice through iron like mud, and it could even slice silver into 2 with a single slash. However, he couldn't even cut through Yang Xian's skin. While Yi Renfei was still in shock, he felt an intense pain in his ankle. Yang Xian's hand tightened and a crisp sound rang out. His bones were almost broken. Yi Renfei was in so much pain that cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Damn it, he had no choice but to use his bloodline power. Yi Renfei gritted his teeth and growled, Black Tortoise Transformation. Yi Renfei's body began to undergo visible changes. His muscles bulged, his skin became scaly, and a layer of gray armor-like substance covered his body. Black Tortoise Transformation. The strength of Yi Renfei's aura suddenly increased, approaching that of the Foundation establishment stage. Interesting. Yang Xian said playfully. Her hand that was grabbing Yi Renfei's ankle was obviously stretched. The transformation was completed in just a few seconds. Yi Renfei's originally somewhat disheveled expression was now full of confidence. Sorry to keep you waiting. Yi Renfei smirked and punched out. Bang! Yang Xian caught it with one hand. Yi Renfei was stunned for a moment. He knew the strength of this punch the best. It was enough to smash a boulder into pieces. Yang Xian casually caught it. Yi Renfei's turtle-tail sword slashed towards Yang Xian's neck. Yang Xian's face was cold. She pushed out her palm, and a cyclone appeared in her palm, pushing it towards Yi Renfei's chest. With a bang, Yi Renfei was sent flying like a cannonball. The old woman surnamed Lu's staff fell, smashing Yang Xian's shoulder with great force. However, Yang Xian didn't seem to feel it. She turned around and smiled at the old woman. Old thing, are you in such a hurry to die? Very well, I'll fulfill your wish. Let's change the order. I'll start with you. Yang Xian grabbed the staff and fiercely pulled. Her other hand clawed towards the old woman surnamed Lu's head. Almost at the same time, a sharp sword stabbed in front of Yang Xian. Although Li Xuemei was scared, she still attacked. Yang Xian's eyes flashed. She grabbed Li Xuemei's sword and casually flung it. Li Xuemei was sent flying. The power of a Foundation establishment cultivator wasn't something a middle-stage qi condensation cultivator like Li Xuemei could withstand. Li Xuemei was sent flying like a cannonball towards a sharp corner above the cave. Her body would be pierced if she hit it. Yi Renfei sent out a stream of qi to change Li Xuemei's direction. With a bang, Li Xuemei avoided the sharp corner and hit a slightly flat wall. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Her qi and blood were in turmoil. She couldn't get up for a while. Yang Xian's strength was beyond imagination. She had already surpassed the normal level of an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Li Daochong, who was about to save Li Xuemei, glanced at Yi Renfei in surprise. He didn't expect this kid to save Li Xuemei. Under the encirclement of the three, every move was aimed at a vital point. Yangxian was angry and launched a lightning-fast attack. Yi Renfei and the old woman surnamed Lu couldn't resist, and were sent flying after a few moves. The two were injured to different degrees. Li Daochong tried to break the invisible barrier behind him several times, but to no avail. He simply took out a 9th-grade fire talisman and directly threw it. Boom! In the sealed space, the explosion was deafening and the cave trembled violently. The 3 Jin Dan cultivators who were fighting with the 3 powerful evil spirits were attracted over. At that moment, everyone looked in Li Daochong's direction. This kid was using a talisman to bombard the barrier. It was clear that he wanted to escape. Under the bombardment of the 9th-grade talisman, the invisible barrier didn't even have the slightest ripple. Li Daochong touched his nose and curled his lips. He only wanted to leave, but it seemed that he couldn't. Could Song Ink break the barrier? Xuemei, did you see? This kid's temperament hasn't changed at all. He's still the same as before, as timid as a mouse. He only wants to escape and doesn't care about your life or death. Yi Renfei said disdainfully. Li Xuemei pondered silently. From the moment she met Li Daochong, this guy had been hiding at the back of the group. After entering the cave, he also chose to stand near the entrance. When something happened, he didn't help and just stood there watching. Li Xuemei looked at Li Daochong with slight disappointment. This guy was still the same as before, timid and stupid. With so many people fighting with their lives on the line, he actually stood on the side as if nothing had happened and tried to break the barrier with a talisman. No one else could do it. In fact, Li Daochong was trying to break the barrier not to escape, but to study the barrier's properties. But after several attempts, he didn't find any clues. The barrier's strength had already exceeded Li Daochong's current range of knowledge. Li Daochong didn't plan to try again. He turned around, looked at Yangxian, and slowly walked towards her. Li Daochong's actions didn't make sense to Li Xuemei. Only when Li Daochong walked past her did she come back to her senses. She anxiously said, "Li Daochong, hurry up and run. With your strength, you're just going to die." Li Daochong looked down at Li Xuemei. "Where do you think you're going? The cave has been sealed. You can only enter but not leave." Li Xuemei tried to grab Li Daochong, but she couldn't. She anxiously said, "Li Daochong, are you stupid? If you can't run, it's not your turn to stand out. Hurry up and stand back." "I can't go back," Li Daochong said without turning his head. Li Xuemei's expression froze. She stared blankly at Li Daochong's thin back. No matter how she looked at it, she felt that there was a hidden meaning in those words. Li Daochong didn't stop as he spoke. He walked towards Yangxian, who had a faint smile on his feminine face. "Little guy, what's wrong? Do you want to join in? This old man saw that you've been very honest, so I gave you preferential treatment. I was going to leave you as the last one. Since you can't wait, then let's do it now." Yangxian said as her claw reached out to grab Li Daochong's head. "Pa!" Li Daochong reached out and grabbed Yangxian's wrist. This grab was very casual, as if he was just reaching out to grab something placed on a shelf. Old woman Lu stretched her neck, revealing an expression of disbelief. She was well aware of Yangxian's strength. This brat who didn't even look 20 years old had casually caught it. How was this possible? Yi Renfei was also stunned. One had to know that even after using the black tortoise transformation, he couldn't withstand Yangxian's attack. How could this brat catch it? Li Xuemei subconsciously rubbed her eyes, wondering if her eyes were playing tricks on her. As the person involved, Yangxian was even more incredulous. This brat's aura was clearly pitifully weak. How could he have caught his claw? Yang Xian increased her strength, wanting to press down. However, the big hand holding her wrist was like an iron clamp, not moving an inch. Can you tell me what the 9 holes on the stone platform are for? Also, why did you drag us into the holes? Li Daochong calmly asked Yang Xian. Chapter 284. This young man's calmness made Yang Xian very annoyed. She used her telekinesis, and a flying sword floated behind her. Swoosh! It flew towards Li Daochong's head. Clang! Ka! Almost at the same time, a flying knife also floated behind Li Daochong and shot out. The flying sword and knife fiercely collided in the air. After a crisp sound, the flying sword was sent flying and a 1-inch gap appeared on the sword. Yang Xian was stunned. Foundation, Establishment, Cultivator. The old woman surnamed Lu, Yi Renfei, and Li Shumei all stared at Li Daochong with dumbfounded expressions. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that Li Daochong had already entered the Foundation Establishment realm. Yi Renfei didn't want to believe that this was true. Li Daochong had already successfully entered the Foundation Establishment stage. How was this possible? Li Shumei also couldn't believe that the once silly boy had now become a cultivator. Was this a dream? The old woman surnamed Lu's astonishment came from Li Daochong's age. She was old and had just successfully entered the Foundation Establishment stage. This boy, who looked like he was only 18 or 19 years old, had already entered the Foundation Establishment stage. This thing called talent was really not a thing. The old woman surnamed Lu looked at Li Daochong with envy and jealousy. She sighed deeply. Time was unforgiving. It was good to be young. Are you not going to answer my question? Li Daochong's voice was cold. Although Yang Xian was surprised, she was not afraid. She turned a deaf ear to Li Daochong's words. Her other hand flicked and a black light shot out. At such a close distance, the speed was so fast that there was no time to react. In Yang Xian's view, this boy, no matter how powerful he was, would still be caught. However, Yang Xian didn't know that Li Daochong's telekinesis had locked onto him from the moment he was about to make a move. Each and every move of his was under the control of Li Daochong. Li Daochong slightly leaned to the side and the black light passed by. Yang Xian was astonished, but she revealed a sinister smile. Was there any use in dodging it? The black ray was a tracking tool. It would not hit the target or destroy it. It would shoot towards the target endlessly. In an instant, the black light that Li Daochong had dodged returned and shot towards Li Daochong's back. Kid, no matter how awesome you are, you'll still have to become the undying soul coffin's soul sacrifice. A cunning expression appeared on Yang Xian's face, but before her expression could fully blossom, she froze in place, as if she had been frozen, her eyes suddenly widening. Li Daochong, who had been holding on to Yang Xian's wrist, disappeared into thin air the moment the black light reflected back. The black light shot straight towards Yang Xian. Bang! Yang Xian was struck by the black light she had shot out and was sent flying. Her body was enveloped by the black light and she landed right in the hole on the stone platform. Yang Xian struggled with all her might, but it was to no avail. Very quickly, just like Qing Feng Zi and the middle-aged woman, her life force quickly disappeared. The three people's souls were instantly absorbed by the undying soul coffin. At that moment, the huge wooden coffin emitted a faint halo, and the coffin lid shook twice before calming down. Li Daochong's eyes flashed. There was something inside the undying soul coffin? When the coffin lid shook just now, a terrifying aura came out from inside. Li Daochong felt a chill run down his spine. He was instantly soaked in sweat, and a rare look of fear appeared on his face. That terrifying aura of death was beyond the scope of Li Daochong's understanding. Compared to that aura of death, the Ghost King, who was currently fighting with Lu Xingzhan, was at best a worm. What kind of existence could have such a powerful aura of death? Ancestor sorcerer? Li Daochong was shocked. If that was really the case, then no one in the cave could leave alive today. No, the entire Red Sun planet would be destroyed. Li Daochong glanced at the three people wrapped in black light on the stone platform. Then, he looked at the 9 holes at the edge of the platform. 3 of them were occupied while the other 6 were empty. Li Daochong suddenly realized something. He seemed to have guessed Ouyang Xian's goal. No wonder Ouyang Xian's aura was so strange. Li Daochong finally understood. He must have cultivated the ghost arts given to him by Dark Ghost, not a cultivation technique. Ouyang Xian had most likely been captured by Dark Ghost and turned into a puppet. Ouyang Xian had appeared here today not to fight for the undying soul coffin, but to open it. Li Daochong instantly understood. Everything made sense now. Hades had paid such a huge price not for the undying soul coffin, but for the person lying inside. Li Daochong looked at the undying soul coffin with a trace of fear. If the person inside woke up, it would be a disaster. At the same time, Li Daochong subconsciously licked his lip. A trace of excitement welled up in his heart. If he could absorb the person lying inside, how many levels could he reach? However, Li Daochong didn't dare to try absorbing such a powerful death chi. With his current strength, if an existence of this level entered his body, there would be nothing left for him. A backlash would be inevitable. Li Daochong naturally wasn't so stupid. The only thing he could do was quickly think of a way to leave this place. If the undying soul coffin really opened, he wouldn't be able to leave even if he wanted to. Just as Li Daochong was pondering, a scream came from behind him. He turned around and saw an arrow pierce through the back of the Jin Dan cultivator fighting the Ghost King. Lu Xingzhan had never imagined that he would be ambushed. He turned around and saw his old friend, the Ouyang family's ancestor Ouyang. Yi Bao? Ru? Ba Fei Jing? Ouyang Xian, who had been hiding in the shadows and using a secret technique to cover himself? Kujia? Mu Jie Uci? Bai Kong Mu? Curtain. Even if his own grandson, Ouyang Xian, had been schemed against by a stranger to become a sacrifice for the undying soul coffin, Ouyang Xian? Kujia Huan Kokong Mu? Even if his grandson was gone, he still had his great-grandson. The chance to kill the Jin Dan cultivator was gone, and it would never be again. Ouyang Xian? Zhongying? Tan? Luan Kujia Huan? Jun? Kujia Huan Kujia? Just based on Ouyang Xian? Kujia Huan? Kujia Fu? Jing? Mu? Kujia Huan? Kujia Huan. All of this was in exchange for selling one's soul. But Ouyang Xian? Kujia Huan Li Zhong? Kujia Huan Qian? Kujia Huan. When Hades gave him the mission, he knew that everything was coming to an end. To awaken the terrifying existence inside the undying soul coffin, an ordinary human soul was far from enough. Even a cultivator might not be enough. Only the souls of Jin Dan cultivators and strong cultivators could satisfy the terrifying existence's needs. Lu Xingzhan used his qi to force the arrow out of his body, but a wave of death energy invaded his body and enveloped Jin Dan. Lu Xingzhan's aura instantly weakened. Ghost King grabbed the top of Lu Xingzhan's head and threw him into the pit on the stone platform. Golden Sword Lu Xingzhan, an early Jin Dan cultivator, became a sacrifice for the undying soul coffin and died just like that. The black light shrouded him, and Lu Xingzhan's life force quickly disappeared. His full body shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. The situation instantly took a turn for the worse. Bai Yi and Old Gun were immediately surrounded. The two could not believe that Golden Sword Lu Xingzhan died just like that. A Jin Dan cultivator died just like that. Ghost King immediately joined forces with the resentful bones to attack Old Gun. Ouyang Xian? Kujia Huan Huang? Kudong Kujia Huan. The battle immediately began to tilt in their favor. Ouyang? Hui Di. Shi, Kudu ji huan, huaxiang, tan ti xie tu huan lai nasi hua ji huan. He was not worried that the four of them would escape. The cave was already surrounded by a strong barrier. No one could leave. Even if a Jin Dan cultivator wanted to leave, it would take some effort. Ouyang? Kujie huan chu fang? Kujie huan kumeng fu? Kujie huan lan ji. If he could successfully complete the mission this time, Hades would bestow a Ghost King Dan to him. If he swallowed it, he would be Ouyang? Kujie huan tai Dan? Kujie huan zhong? Kujie huan zaoing? Kujie huan? Kujie huan. No one could resist this temptation. Ouyang. Kujie huan lai nasi hua ji huan? Kujie huan? Kujie huan? Kuhuai jio? Kujie huan? Kujie huan. Old Gun and Resentful Bone were evenly matched. With the addition of the Ghost King, Old Gun immediately fell into a disadvantageous position. He could only defend, unable to counterattack. The same was true for Bai. The red shadow ghost she was fighting with was already on the verge of breaking through and was incomparably fierce. In a one-on-one fight, Bai could only fight it to a draw. Ouyang? Kujie huan? Kujie huan? Kujie huan zhong? Kujie huan? Kujeng? Kujie huan? Kushao kujun? Kujie huan. Old woman, Lu saw that the situation was bad. She desperately rushed to help, but before she could do anything, she was hit by the Ghost King's palm and lost half her life. The malicious Ghost King then threw the old woman surnamed Lu into the hole. A battle of this level was not something that could be interfered with just because others wanted to. The whole cave trembled in the fierce battle, as if it was in danger of collapsing at any time. Old Gun controlled his cannonball-like magic treasure, Sky Bell Hammer, to wildly bombard the place. However, the effect was minimal. The half of the Ghost King's dark body was extremely tough. It was not afraid of this level of bombardment. The long axe in the Resentful Bone's hand was also a dark treasure, comparable to the Sky Bell Hammer. The spiritual energy in Old Gun's body was being consumed at an alarming rate. From time to time, he would take out spiritual herbs and swallow them to forcibly restore his spiritual energy. Bai's situation was even worse. Ouyang? Kujie huan? Kujie huan? Kujie huan? Bai's magic robe was damaged in many places. The red ghost's claws were like the upper half of the Ghost King's body. It condensed into a dark body and was no longer in a ghost state. With one claw, it could crush magic treasures, not to mention magic robe. Bai's white robes had been torn to shreds, and there were holes everywhere. A large part of her back was exposed, and her slender white right leg was almost completely exposed. Her arm had been torn open, and there was a foot-long bloody wound. It was a terrifying sight. Her lower abdomen was also scratched. A piece of her chest was also missing, revealing her fair and full snow-white skin. There was also a shallow trace of blood hanging on her chest. Ouyang? Chao Ping Yuan, Lao Lao Xian Kong Mu Qian Fuji? Lang? Kujie huan? That was Bai's life gate. If she was hit, even if she did not die, she would lose half of her life. Ouyang? Kujie huan? Kujie huan? Kujie huan? Kujie huan? This old man is now in hell. Why should I worry about going to hell? Miss Bai, you should worry about yourself. Chao Di Panji Shi Huang #? Protect? Catharsis? Excesses are hurtful, and hurtful. The hidden weapon used to sneak attack Lu Xingzhan was a crossbow. Was this Ouyang? Plotting for a long time? Violent Hydra? Moreover? What? Gamma? Locust, Grey Elm, Wild Rosewood, 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 Connor. The reason why Bai Yi kept retreating was that most of her attention was on Ouyang. Yi Zhong Xie? Josh? The Scabbard of Desolation, Luck? Brigade? Tier Fiamu? Ao Bai Yi saw that she was about to be forced into a corner. 18 white threads stretched out like the tentacles of an octopus, desperately fighting back. 7 of the white ribbons entangled the red shadow ghost, while the other 11 ribbons shot towards Ouyang Ming. Shun Ouyang? Kaishan K cloth shake fresh? Looking at him in fear? Phi collapse? Purple spoon cherry? Kai? Subazin? Chasing after Peizi? Was he talking about Mu Song Yao with his heart? Apologize? Chase after Ma Xian? Huaying Zheng? Change in a hurry? Kajiji? Go up? Ying? Purple spoon Huai Na His Tan Lai Huang Lan Lai Zhu? Locusts bad Mu Ai? Iridium bad medium? Purple spoon Yu Luo Temple? Wana Lang Shua? Barium? In Ouyang? Xian Luo Waku Bao? Words Dai Dong Uranium? Qing Ji? What? The laughter stopped abruptly. Chapter 285. Ouyang? Are you trying to scare me? What? Trampling the drought and dragging the mountain range punishment? What is jealousy? What is jealousy? Du Jie, how could this be? Obsidian stew white rebellion? Lu Yen? Jizheng? Pool? Morning Song Toad, the strange young man who had plotted against his grandson, stood behind him with a calm expression, both hands holding the hilt of his saber. Bai Yi was also surprised. She thought that she was going to die here today. She didn't expect that someone would come out of nowhere and save her. However, Bai Yi could not understand how that young man could appear in Ouyang City without a trace. Xingqianyu? Drum bad hole sandalwood fee? Shun the body of a Peak Foundation establishment stage cultivator had long been spiritualized. It was not something a mortal body could compare to. Normal weapons would not be able to penetrate it. Could that saber be a mystical spirit treasure? No, it wasn't a mystical spiritual treasure. That saber didn't have the spiritual chi of an artifact spirit. It couldn't be a mystical spiritual treasure. Yi Renfei watched in astonishment as Li Daochong pierced through the body of a cultivator at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. His entire body felt unwell. How was this possible? Li Xuemei, who had suffered internal injuries, opened her eyes wide. Her beautiful black pupils trembled slightly. The youth who had grown up with her had now become so unfamiliar. Li Daochong's strength far exceeded everyone's expectations. In fact, could Li Daochong stab through Ouyang? Constriction? Leech? Are you going to recite alfalfa? Rosefinch, scabbard, poke, poke, poke? Cymbidium maxim, if it was a real human cultivator at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage, Li Daochong's saber would not be able to pierce through that easily. It would already be good if it could pierce through the flesh. Every single strand of hair on Li Daochong's body was the nemesis of the dark body. Coupled with the enhancement of the spiritual yang lightning, the Tsang ink itself was also an extraordinary heaven-grade artifact. With all these factors put together, Ouyang Ming's saber strike would be fatal. Huaitan? Of course, this kind of injury was not enough for Ouyang. Although it hurts, it's like a mosquito? Hold? Leftovers? Fee? Chi? Beetle nut? Cleavage? Jeshuan Ji, little brat, you're courting death. Ha? Bolt? Zhenzing. Ouyang? How Luo Xiao Huan Lai? A trip to Huan Lai? Exchanging for a soul? Zhongping fawning? Apple Ucun Lai Pang Chong Cha. However, Li Daochong would never give it to Ouyang. Zhang Tianyi? Curtain? Placing the legs in Huang? Xian for Sakura? Look at me coldly? Fee? What's the matter? Panic? Or fish. The best target for Li Daochong's sneak attack wasn't Ouyang? Constriction? Choking Xian and rustling? Fee? Ostrich afraid of the headland? But Li Daochong didn't care about the success rate. He schemed against Ouyang Xian and made him the guardian spirit of the undying soul coffin. Ouyang? Sodium and sodium? Huang Erlai? Li Daochong would never believe that there was nothing going on between the two of them. The Jin Dan cultivator who had been ambushed earlier had called out Brother Ouyang before he died. Ouyang Xian was also surnamed Ouyang, and the two of them were clearly related by blood. They had both sold their souls to Hades. Ouyang? Hanshin Acripoid Wan Lai Dan? Was Huang Qiaochen playing a trick in her spasms? Bad buck dregs and buttermilk? Huan Yu Jia Wu Lai Yu. Therefore, Li Daochong wanted Ouyang no matter what. An idiot in a corner? Leap? Shellfish Muscle. Li Daochong could basically confirm that these two were Ouyang family's old ancestors, one of the four great families of the Scarlet Sun Star. Even if he managed to escape Ouyang, Huang was defeated? Dipped in beach is messy. Therefore, in Ouyang? Squid warranty? Wanleba was stunned. Suck on me? Copy. Li Daochong had no pity or sympathy for someone who had sold their soul to Dark Ghost. If he did attack, he would attack with lethal force. Ouyang? Xing Huanle? Protect? Official channel? Different from each other. Beep. Ghost golem killed, soul power gained. Hesitating Ouyang? What is the meaning of this? Ci go ran du wei jiao jia? Shannying tomb? Huh? Was it an appendix? Theta Chunga wields weapon to steal earth. Yo-yo, it was better than nothing. Little brother, thank you. Bai grinned at Li Daochong. You're welcome, Li Daochong replied faintly. Then, he slashed again. Li Daochong did not kill Ouyang? Pan Sha Yu? Mao? Invading Xian Yuya? Maoya? Maoya Mozi? Shanxi? Ji. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost was a high-level vengeful spirit among the Dark Ghost. In ancient times, the Red Shadow Malicious Ghost was the Hades Red Shadow Malicious Ghost. According to legend, it was a persecuted woman. Because of hatred, she did not care about the world. Wearing red clothes, she committed suicide in the middle of the night. In reality, a dead person could not be revived, nor could they become a ghost. It was the Red Shadow Malicious Ghost that was attracted by the woman's resentment and devoured it. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost was inherent and was not transformed by the woman who committed suicide. Coincidentally, the Red Shadow Malicious Ghost looked like a woman with disheveled hair and dressed in red clothes. Li Daochong's saber was imbued with spiritual yang lightning. It was the fourth stage of the 9-split saber art, Heaven Collapsing Slash. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost pounced. It did not expect the human cultivator who had his back to it to not dodge. Instead, he slashed at it without warning. Ghosts were naturally not afraid of physical damage. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost's instinctive reaction was not to be afraid. However, when the saber flashed at it, the Red Shadow Malicious Ghost's eyes suddenly widened. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost's eyes suddenly widened. The saber flashed with blue lightning. Lightning was one of the Dark Ghost's nemeses. Ah! The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost let out a cry of fear. It suddenly stopped pouncing. However, because the impact was too strong, the sudden turn caused its ghost body to distort in the void. Li Daochong did not hold back in this attack. It was extremely fast. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost was still half a beat too slow. The saber flashed past the Red Shadow's shoulder. Chi lightning flashed. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost was sent flying. It slammed heavily into the wall surrounding the cave. The invisible wall itself was formed by energy. The ghost body could not pass through it. The Red Shadow Malicious Ghost was like a human crashing into a wall. The ghost body's dark red light instantly dimmed. Bai Yi exclaimed softly. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly at Li Daochong. This young man was actually able to force the red shadow malicious ghost to retreat with one strike. Impressive. Bai Yi knew that she was not capable of this when she was at the early stage of foundation establishment. Senior, what are you looking at? Aren't you going to help? Li Daochong frowned. He turned to look at Bai Yi, who was standing to the side. Yi Renfei was standing to the side. Li Daochong was actually using such a tone to speak to a Jin Dan cultivator. Wasn't this courting death? You brat, do you really think you are invincible? Yes, you are very impressive now. Breaking through to the foundation establishment stage at such a young age, you can be considered a genius in the entire Federation. But in front of a Jin Dan cultivator, you are just a slightly stronger dog or cat. Killing you is just a matter of thought. The higher the cultivation level, the greater the gap. On the surface, the difference between foundation establishment and Jin Dan cultivators was only one level. But this gap was like a chasm. Compared to the gap between qi gathering and qi refining, it was hundreds of times larger. Li Xuemei and Yi Renfei had similar thoughts. Although they were shocked by Li Daochong, hearing him speak to a Jin Dan cultivator in such a manner, Li Xuemei immediately broke out in a cold sweat for Li Daochong. This brat seemed to still have his stupidity from back then. I'm sorry. Little brother's movements just now were so cool. I was stunned. Bai Yi lost her voice. Her face revealed a bashful expression. What? Yi Renfei's face was filled with confusion. Li Xuemei's expression was sluggish. It was understandable that the Jin Dan female cultivator did not bother with Li Daochong's bad attitude. After all, this was a critical period. But a dignified Jin Dan female cultivator used such a coquettish tone to reply to a brat who had just entered the foundation establishment stage. What the hell was going on? It must be an illusion. Yi Renfei thought to himself. Then, he shook his head. No, it was not an illusion. It must be that the Jin Dan female cultivator cultivated some kind of technique that required the boy to be her furnace. It must be like this. Otherwise, it would not make sense. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.